30 seconds. Just kidding. Mayor, we are live.
Thank you. Welcome to the Oakland Mayor and Council meeting, March 10th, 2021 via Zoom. Roll call.
Mayor Schwager,
Here.
Councilman Bialy,
Here.
Councilman Kamala,
Here.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Here.
Councilman Slasinski,
Here.
Councilman Talamini,
Here.
Councilman Van Ack.
Here.
We dispense with the salute since we're all on Zoom for in different areas. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. This meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law, duly announced, submitted to the newspaper, and advertised more than 48 hours in advance of the meeting. And notice was posted in the municipal building and on the borough website. This meeting is in accordance with the state statute via Zoom. At this time, my mayor's report. Just a reminder, this coming weekend, we spring forward. Don't forget to move your clocks forward, which means spring is around the corner and maybe some of the snow will start melting, which it has. An update on COVID-19 in Oakland. Mobile testing continues at the senior center parking lot. You register online, you drive up to the senior center, you remain in your vehicle, and attendees come to you. It's a rapid test. The hours are Monday and Wednesday, 10 to 6, Saturday, 10 to 3, and they requested an additional day, which is Sunday from 10 to 3. To register, you go online at test.oaklandnj.online or go to the borough website to follow the link for the testing registration. The borough website, I'll repeat that a couple of times, is www.oakland-nj.org. And all the information you get tonight, you can find this on the borough website. It's chock full of information. Again, it's www.oakland-nj.org. Now for vaccination update. I get many calls daily. I get emails, I get texts. Why doesn't Oakland have the vaccine? We have tried. We've tried to partner with the flow towns, Oakland, Franklin, Lake, Swyckoff. We've tried to partner with the schools, talk to the superintendent of schools. The problem is that we use the Bergen County Health Department. We do not have our own health department. So they don't divvy up the vaccine sites, the vaccination sites to the smaller towns that are using the Bergen County Health Department. The sites that are getting the vaccine are separate towns that have their own health department. And even if you hear they have the vaccine, or I should say they're a vaccination site, doesn't mean they have the vaccine. There is a shortage, and constantly I'm hearing there's short vaccines. However, Oakland has a new program, and it's called the Vaccination Assistance Program. And this program is to assist our senior citizens aged 75 years old or older, and they can get help with scheduling an appointment. The Vaccination Assistance Program, under the supervision of our Senior Citizen Director, Ariel, who's doing a phenomenal job. It's incredible. All you have to do to register to be able to participate is call 201-405-7731 or email Ariel at seniors@oakland-nj.org. If you wish to volunteer to help our seniors, you can also call 201-405-7731 or go online to seniors@oakland-nj.org. The first day that this, I was told by our borough administrator, the very first day that we announced that this program is in existence, Ariel received 75 people. Is that correct, Richard?
I know it was like 50 by 1 o'clock that afternoon, so.
Yeah,
she made
and we
it
already
work.
had 2 residents who volunteered to help with the program. So if you're good on the computer and you have time and you want to help, we'd love to have you volunteer. Contact Ariel at the Senior Center. Additionally, not just giving help with the vaccination, the Oakland Senior Center will help with assisting coordinating transportation to homebound seniors needing assistance to and from their vaccination appointments. So in addition to helping them get the appointment, now we're assisting with the transportation. Additionally, we just found out yesterday, we just got the notice from Bergen County. The Bergen County Division of Community Transportation has started a new program, and it's called Ride for Life. And what they are going to do is you have to call, and the phone number is 201-368-5955. You have to call 24 hours in advance. And what they will do is help you get rides to the vaccination site. So when you call, the information they will ask you is your first and last name, your address, your cell phone number, your pickup address, your pickup time, and the destination address. And the program is RIDE, that's RYDE, the number 4 life. 24 hours advance notice. I'm going to repeat the phone number, 201-368-5955. But I want to remind everyone, there are scams out there. If you get a call about, oh, we could get you the vaccination, do not give out your personal identifiers. Do not even give them money. Do not give them any financial information. There are scams out there, and it's kind of sad that they're preying on the vulnerable. So please make sure before you give any information on the telephone, you know who you're talking to. Next thing is the library. 2 great programs. Thank you, Peter. Wonderful programs at the library. Upcoming Thursday, March 18th at 4 o'clock. Remember I said spring is around the corner? Well, there is a program at 4 o'clock via Zoom called a Spring Cleaning Tips to Make the Job Easier. That's 9 spring cleaning tips. And it's they talk about how to do spring cleaning and decluttering and how to make it a lot easier. And the moderator will be the best-selling author and humorist, Jamie Novak. And then that same night at 7 o'clock is a program called The Science of Styrofoam. And you can learn about the chemical composition, material, the biodegradability, ecology, etc., and presented by Sustainable New Jersey. I went to a styrofoam class about 2 years ago at the library, and I was shocked about styrofoam. It's an eye-opener. So if you have the ability and the time to go online to see it, 7 o'clock Thursday, March 18th, through the library, all the programs, you go to the library website or go to the Borough website, it's the link to the library website, and you can register for the class. Lastly, if you are an Optimum/Altice customer, listen carefully. Due to the many complaints from our municipal officials and residents, I'm pleased to announce that the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities has heard our calls for help and will be investigating the operations of Altice, also known as Optimum. The New Jersey Board of Public Utilities will conduct a public hearing to allow public officials and customers the opportunity to voice their concerns about the service, as well as giving Altice an opportunity to respond. This is going to be on Tuesday, March 16th at 10 o'clock a.m. It's virtual, so you could sit in your home and go on virtual. It's the go-to webinar, or you can file your comments and complaints electronically. You go to the Borough website for details. Again, www.oakland-nj.org, and press the press release section, and that will give you all the information. Now, before we open to the public tonight, I was talking to our Recreation Council Liaison, Councilman Grant Van Eck, who is going to talk about the most recent issue we have at the rec complex. It's a major issue because we're caught in the middle, and Councilman Van Eck, he wanted to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. So a bit of context, the Rec Commission, which I am the liaison to, has been getting hammered because of the guidelines we received from Bergen County Department of Health not being the same as the high school that the high school is following. Just wanted to be understood that the Rec Commission doesn't make quarantine policy. The Rec Commission follows instructions given to us by the Bergen County Department of Health. I went into detail at the last council meeting during my report time at some point, very detailed as to the quarantine guidelines, why they're set, how they're set based on infection rate and the high, moderate, and low infection rates. I'm not going to do that right now. So just want to clear up misunderstanding about how things are and making clear that we are not creating quarantine policy. And what the high school does and what we're doing anyway. What I'd like to do is make a motion that we request the Bergen County Department of Health to reconsider their policy of a 14-day quarantine and allow our local school board and Recreation Commission to follow the 5 and 7 day with a negative test guideline, which is in the CDC recommended guideline to be followed going forward. So I'd like to propose a motion that we make that request.
For
Second,
a second,
second.
is there discussion? I just want to say, I don't think the public understands that we are required to follow the county rules. We can make up our own rules. And so I asked the question, and no one has an answer, is why is the high school not following the county rules? No one seems to know the answer.
So Mayor, what I'd like to do, as well as a little discussion on this, is request, I don't know if we should put this in, I could do another motion or amend the motion. Mr. Jakowski says we could do that, but I would love for someone from the county to actually come to a council meeting and discuss this with us as to why it is and what it is. I'd love to have them here for this discussion, especially for our residents who I know have been reaching out to Bergen County directly, individually, but it would be great for have them at a public meeting to address some of these concerns. And
So
I
what
would
is
love
the
for them to
actual
attend, but
motion that
potentially
we're
the next
going
one.
to vote on? What is the actual motion?
Sorry, I know we have a motion in a second.
What is that? What is the motion that is going to be voted on?
That we request the Bergen County Department of Health to reconsider their policy of a 14-day quarantine and allow our local school board and Recreation Commission to follow the 5 and 7 day negative test guideline, which is in the CDC recommended guidelines to be followed going forward.
Question.
So we're asking them to reconsider the 14-day quarantine.
Question.
Yeah.
Mr. Chakowski, if we put this resolution forward, are we not stepping on the school board by including them in this motion?
School board should not be included in our resolution. They certainly can take whatever actions they determine are necessary. But a suggestion I would make, Mr. Van Eck's motion was well articulated as with regard to the standards. And you could amend the motion to include a request to the county health department to provide a representative to come to or to participate in one of our council meetings as to the criteria they are utilizing to determine the length of a quarantine.
Are you willing to amend your motion, Grant?
Yes.
And are you willing to second it, Eric?
Second.
All right, so can we just do we have to do a roll call? We can do all in favor?
And why don't we do a roll call on this one, Mayor?
Okay, roll call, Lisa.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Kamala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Absolutely, yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
And just as a further note, I will contact the superintendent tomorrow but actually, Russ, aren't you schools?
Yes.
If you can contact the board president, if they want to, piggyback on our motion, that would be great.
Okay.
All right,
Are
and
we-
with that, we will open to the public. Remember, this is for public comment. Michael,
moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Michael,
Welcome to tonight's council meeting. If you wish to provide public comment, please click on the raise your hand icon or *9 on a mobile phone, and you will be unmuted and recognized. As a reminder, there is a 3-minute limit. Thank you. Mayor, first up, we have resident Audrey Saunders.
hi.
Hi, thank you. So I appreciate your motion to move forward with trying to decrease the quarantine. The issue that's arisen for several of our roller hockey players is that they're allowed to go back to school tomorrow on Thursday after testing negative and been asymptomatic for 7 days post-exposure, which the exposure in and of itself is questionable. And they're not allowed to play in the roller hockey playoffs this weekend. So obviously for me, that's a personally pressing issue for these kids because it's our last year on the junior team. And it's very upsetting. It's the second year in a row that they're going to be denied taking the playoffs. And the other thing I wanted to say, is there any way that these boys can play this weekend for the playoffs? I don't know if there's anything that we could do to have them play. And I think the 10-day quarantine, I just got an email from Dogwood that the school's going to be closed till March 25th. I mean, it's literally child abuse almost, that these children are going to be home until March 25th because there was an exposure at the school. I mean, it's unbearable for parents. I don't know if people really can completely understand unless they're a working mother with children at home, quarantine, testing, it never ends. And they just want to go outside and play.
I'm sorry, did I hear that correctly? Dogwood's closing?
I got an email that I believe, is that correct? That Dogwood's closing
Russ,
until
do you know?
I heard that there was something going on. I didn't hear the final result.
Okay.
kids now they're home I just think this motion will obviously help if they could go back in 7 days if they were tested and were asymptomatic. But at some point, it's just too much for everyone to bear. The negative impact on the kids, I understand COVID. I work in a hospital. I respect, the illness, but at a certain point, we have to balance what's best for our kids. And right now, I think the kids are on the losing end of all of this at this point.
Thank you. This is not it's not a debate, but just to respond, we are sending the motion to the county. I'm sure, Councilman Van Eck, if we get a response right away, that'll affect this weekend. We'll get that motion out. We'll get it over to the county tomorrow.
Yeah,
We can do that, can't we?
Mayor, we'll make a point of getting it out first thing tomorrow morning.
It'll go right to the county tomorrow, and maybe they'll respond.
Thank you.
But we are under the rules of Bergen County. We are not allowed to make our own rules. So our hands are tied. Councilman's hands are tied, the rec hands are tied, the school's hands are tied. It's the county who controls what we do. So we're gonna try and have them review that. Again, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak. Who's next, Michael?
Mayor, next up, resident Peter Keycott.
Where?
I'm coming.
Are you coming?
Here we go. I had my feet up. I didn't want you to look at the holes in my socks, so I'm going to take my feet off of the desk. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Peter Keycott, 20 Minnehaha Boulevard, Elkos, also the chairman of the Shade Tree Commission in town. I'm going to start off with a few questions that I do not expect to be answered, Mayor, so they're somewhat rhetorical. But it's going to basically start it's going to be my preamble, if you will. So when did the Borough of Oakland become above the law? When did the Borough of Oakland, the owner of many properties in town, become exempt from the same rules and penalties subject to and imposed on other property owners in the borough? Is the borough itself not responsible for taking out permits for work that it does in town? Why does the borough believe that they are exempt from their own ordinances? and let me explain what I'm talking about. So a few weeks ago, a 12 to 16-inch caliper tree, a native sourwood tree, was cut down by the borough at the direction of a high-ranking official within the municipality. This is an ongoing situation and problem that has happened within the borough over the last few months with the DPW taking down trees without requesting a permit or without at least an inspection. I understand the permit process would be exempt, but the inspection process should not be avoided, and it has been avoided for a period of time now. As a result of the new sign location that was determined by whomever, this didn't, again, no one brought any information to the Shade Tree Commission for their consideration. A legacy tree, a map of, let me count the number, I believe it's 24, no, it's 20, which is now only 19 trees. A legacy tree, which by description has a unique characteristic, whether it be age, shape of the canopy, unique qualities, just overall beauty, health, native variety, rarity, etc. So we've been keeping and maintaining a list for the last number of years, and up till recently, we had 20 on that list. Well, that tree, a tree in Veterans Park at 202 and Oak, was cut down. No notice was given, and when follow-up inquiries were made, I was told that the borough is not required to seek permission, and nor is it expected that we would provide permission to remove a tree, any tree. I question why the borough is above the law. I question why the borough, as a property owner, is not subject to the same rules and regulations that homeowners are subject to. I question why I just had to submit, as chairman of the Shade Tree Commission, 2 violations for trees that were illegally removed. Why am I not permitted to provide the borough with a violation order against its own ordinance? I was sick to my stomach when I heard what happened at the Shade Tree Commission last Monday night. I'm sickened even further by the conversation and disturbed by the conversation that was had today that led me to understand that the borough is above the law and is not subject to its own ordinances. I'm very upset by that, and I believe that that is something that the council should sincerely and seriously take into consideration moving forward. I understand that a further conversation on the revisions to the ordinance are being discussed tonight, which I will avail myself to. I will also state that it has clearly shown me that there is an additional loophole, an additional untied loose end that needs to be tied up and corrected, because the borough should and I would say that the 12,000 residents and 4,000 property owners plus in town would agree that the borough should be subject to its own ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
Mayor, I see no one further.
There are motion
Motion
closed?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
We have minutes from February 10th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Kamala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski,
Abstain.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
We have minutes from the executive session of February 10th, 2021. If there's going to be any discussion, it must be made during an executive session. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Will there be any discussion? And roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Kamala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski,
Abstain.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
So we have 2 appointments tonight. The first one is Matthew Shook, and you should all have his citizen leadership form for the Environmental Commission. And it is my suggestion that we move, because Nancy Kraus has resigned, that we move the alternate 1 into Nancy's position, the alternate 2 into the alternate 1, and Matthew takes alternate 2. So, Councilman Pignatelli?
Yes.
Is that your committee?
Yes, Mayor.
Is
Yes,
that okay?
yes, I'd like to welcome
Motion?
Matthew Shook.
Do you want a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The next one is Carrie Terwilliger, and that is for the Sustainable Green Team. That's great that we have Carrie who's willing to do this. And that's Councilman Councilman.
That's a
Kamala.
mayoral appointment, Mayor.
Yes,
It's a mayoral appointment.
it is. You are correct, and I am wrong. Thank you. That's why we need you. You always catch up on us and keep us straight and narrow. It's my appointment. I appoint you. Thank you. Now for the resolutions. The first one I'm going to pull out is 21102 to endorse the CDBG home application for Easton Christian Children's Retreat. Is there a motion to remove it from the table?
So moved.
Second.
Any opposition? So it's roll call to remove from the table.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Kamala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
Now we have resolution 21102, and there's been a change since it was originally handed to us in the packet. It is to the Bergen County Hope Investment Partnership application for $303,490 has been proposed by Easton Christian Children's Retreat for the York Ho House project in the borough. And they need our endorsement to go forward with this application. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? And roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Kamala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
So those, I see members from Mr. Rogers, and I saw somebody else from Easton Christian. So go ahead and apply for your grant. Thank you, and we look forward to having you as a neighbor. The
Mayor?
other
Mayor?
one I'm pulling out is 21126, which is support the HR 946 to remove the cap on salt deduction. And the reason why I wanted to pull that out is so that the residents understand what this is. You know, you hear salt deduction, that's SALT. And basically, it's the state and local taxes deduction. You know, as you know, for the past 100 years, you were able to deduct your state and local taxes. And then 1913, the first federal income tax form allowed taxpayers to do said deductions on their taxes. And then the federal tax reform law passed in 2017, which capped the deductibility on state and local taxes at $10,000, forcing double taxation for residents that pay excess of that amount. And unfortunately, in Oakland, many of us fall into that category. And so the New Jersey 9th District Congressman Bill Pascrell has introduced HR 946 to stop oppose the salt deduction cap and to move forward. So this is the resolution encouraging the U.S. legislatures, Congress, to remove the salt deduction at $10,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
I've been waiting for this bill to come up for a long time. Yes,
Well, most of us pay over $10,000.
exactly.
Great.
Councilman Kamala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
And now if there's any others you wish to pull out, let me know. 120 is to authorize the promotion of Sergeant Michael Griffin The Borough Administrator, Public Safety Committee, and Police Chief recommended Officer Griffin to be promoted to fill the open sergeant's position. Will be effective March 10th, 2021, at a compensation of $135,327. 21-121 is to authorize the engineer for downtown traffic congestion study. We all know there's a need for a traffic study for our downtown. Boswell Engineering has submitted a proposal dated February 18th, 2021 for engineering services not to exceed $15,490. Our CFO has certified funds are available, and this resolution is to award the contract for this traffic congestion study. 21-122 is authorized engineer for NJDEP storm water regulatory compliance. And there's a need for us to assist the borough complying with the New Jersey DEP stormwater regulations. Boswell Engineering submitted a proposal dated February 4th, 2021, at a cost not to exceed $4,500. CFO has certified funds are available. 21-123 is to award bid for recreation equipment, and Oakland needs to purchase a variety of recreational supplies, and we are in the Wolf Group. That is Wyckoff, Oakland, and Franklin Lakes. Wyckoff is the lead town to go ahead with this, and this allows us to go ahead as part of the award bid. 21-124 is authorized execution of deed restriction on affordable housing property between CGP and HLLC on behalf of the borough and 91 West Oakland Avenue. Those are the those units that you can find at 91 West Oakland Avenue. Resolution 21-125 is to authorize CDBG grant agreement using $10,000 for the senior center software application. 21-127 is to cancel grant balances. This is the time of year where the CFO has to balance the records, and he wants to balance by canceling Bergen County receivable of $13,597.59 for the Bergen County roller hockey ring, which is $13,597.59. Resolution 21-128 is to authorize the CDBG COVID-19 grant application, and it is totaling $59,151.72 proposed by the borough for the senior center COVID upgrades project. 21-129 is to authorize the grant extension Roots for Rivers grants. This is a resolution for the grant extension until June 30th, 2021, whereas originally it was in March. 21-130 is request a grant extension NJDOT sidewalk grant. We received a grant of $217,000 on March 25th, 2019. This is to ask for an extension of this grant. That's what this is for the fiscal year. 21-131, this is the big one. Appoint CFO David Young. David Young was hired as our temporary chief financial officer while he obtains his certification. Mr. Young has received certification as a certified municipal finance officer from the state of New Jersey. We are hereby appoint David Young as our chief financial officer for a 4-year term commencing January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2024, pursuant to the statute and in accordance with his employment agreement. Mr. Young's compensation for 2021 shall be $110,817. And resolution 21-132 is to, we have to do a temporary budget this time of year for the second quarter. And you can see all the numbers about the total appropriations. And we require a temporary appropriation for the second quarter. The current fund is $17,444,325.88. Water utility operating fund, $1,629,600. Sewer utility operating fund, $474,800. 26.25% of the total appropriations for the 2020 budget, exclusive of any appropriations made for interest and debt redemption, charges, etc., are as follows. Current fund, $4,579,134.31. Water utility operating fund, $427,770. And the sewer utility operating fund, $124,635. And 21-133 is to authorize the grant application for the Bergen County Clean Communities mini grant. It's with the Bergen County Department of Health, and it is in the amount of $300 to be used for Team Up to Clean Up event to be held April 24th and 25th, 2021. Any wish to pull out? If not, a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second,
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 roll call.
Councilman Piali,
Yes.
Councilman Kamala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
yes,
Councilman Slasinski,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Just before I answer, I just want to say congratulations to David and thank you for everything he does. When the first meeting that I attended as a councilman, we had to replace our CFO because they hired him, and then like a month later he resigned. We've gone through a lot of CFOs, and it's been really nice having David here doing the work and setting a plan and just riding the ship, and he's been wonderful. Yeah.
I second that motion. Great guy.
I think you speak for everyone.
Yes, it's been a very good asset.
Definitely.
Actually, we'll finish with the roll call. Do we finish?
I
No,
said, yeah.
Councilman, okay, Councilman Van Ack,
Am I supposed to praise David right here or vote yes on the consent
Nah,
agenda?
don't bother.
Yes on the
Vote
consent
yes.
agenda, and it's great working on the finance committee with David too.
I want you to know he did a tutorial for our newest council member, Kevin Slasinski, and I attended it because I was just curious to see what a tutorial is. And he's unbelievable. I said, you could teach this. He really is very good, and we thank David for also being stable
Yes,
and stay with us. I
Thank you.
never knew how many did we go through in 1 year? This was great.
Three.
I think we should also congratulate our new Sergeant Griffin on this promotion.
He will be sworn in on I was going to say Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day.
17, yes.
Congratulations to him.
Yes, he's going to be sworn in. Introduction of ordinance 21 capital 824 for HVAC system in the library. Is there a motion to
So
introduce?
moved. So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Piali,
Yes.
Councilman Kamala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes,
Councilman Slasinski,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
And when is the final hearing?
March 24th.
So anyone who wants to read the ordinance for the March 24th meeting. Then we have ordinance 21 code 823. This is to regulate printed materials. As we all know, many of us receive on our driveways thrown the suburban news. And this ordinance, it's to amend and supplement chapter 3 police regulations, section 3-1.8, distribution of handbills and circulars prohibited, exceptions to regulate the delivery of handbills, circulars, and other printed materials to private premises. So, is there a motion to open to the public to discuss?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Michael, is there anyone who wishes to speak on this ordinance?
If you wish to speak on this ordinance only, again, raise your hand icon or *9 on a mobile phone. Mayor, I see no one further.
Motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A motion for final adoption of 21 Code 823 to regulate delivery of printed materials. Roll call. Oh, motion.
So
Do we have
moved.
that?
Second,
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Kumala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Slifzinski,
yes.
Councilman Salamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes,
Now, can we send this to the Suburban News?
I was gonna ask that.
I told you we think alike sometimes.
I don't see why not.
Okay.
I
first
think
thing
we
tomorrow.
should, I think we should, because it does say that it's up to a $500 fine for
Yep.
violating this. And just for the residents who've been following this story, I thank everyone for supporting this, because we do have a major pollution problem in our town between the plastic bags and the paper and the ink and the runoff of the Suburban News that get thrown around and just litter the streets all over the place. So if you now, if you request it to stop being thrown on your property, there is a recourse for our community. And this is something we borrowed from Franklin Lakes to hopefully solve a problem that we've been having in town.
I'd like to thank Councilman Van Eck for bringing this
Yes.
forward. We really need this. Spring is around the corner, and hopefully we'll present a cleaner community in the spring when they stop delivering these unwanted newspapers. Thank you,
And
Councilman.
we may find some under some of the snow when it starts all melts away.
Might find more.
Appreciate
But
that,
yes,
Councilman
So,
Pignatelli.
yes,
Thank
so
you.
please, Richard will get this over to the Suburban News tomorrow. We have work session items and we have a guest tonight. Do you think we should just switch it around? Assemblyman Orth, are you still with us?
He looks like he is still on the call. Yeah.
Yeah, there he is.
Oh, there you are.
But he's,
All right, do you want to wait until we finish the shade tree and regulate chickens? Do you have to go or can you wait?
he's muted.
You're muted, you're on mute. I just
Right.
saw-
I'd be more than happy to wait, Mayor. No problem.
Oh, thank you. Okay, shade tree ordinance. Who's going to bring that up?
Mayor, I guess I'll start. This is a follow-on to Mr. Keycott's presentation from a couple of meetings ago, where he spoke passionately about trees and their value to the community. So the Shade Tree Commission, working with the Borough Attorney, prepared a series of proposed amendments to the Tree Protection Code. And those are being brought forth now to you for discussion. You're provided with a marked up copy of the ordinance, as well as a synopsis in my report detailing what those amendments are and what they would do. So I think with that, we can just kind of Grant, unless you have something you want to add, we can just sort of open it up for debate and discussion and questions.
I think we've really dug into this. I've had lots of conversations around this, and the details in both the copy of the marked up ordinance and your summary, Rich, were great. So I would, without adding anything further for the sake of time, I think we should go into this discussion.
Brian, our attorney, do you want to say anything?
A couple items, Mayor, just to make sure that the record is clear. The version of the ordinance that you have was a version that was the subject of many iterations last year. The version you have was completed in August of last year. At that time, Councilman Levy was the liaison. Mr. Van Eck took over. We provided Mr. Van Eck with the information. There was a suggestion in November of last year that perhaps we should have a more streamlined process. We had a meeting in November via Zoom. At that meeting, we provided an alternative ordinance, which I believe Mr. Van Eck submitted to Shade Tree, and we went back to this original version. I always look at it simply. It is a regulation, and I think you should analyze it in terms of cost to the resident, what a resident has to do, and what may the impact be. And what I mean by that is what is required for a resident to remove a tree? What process must that resident go through? What is the timing and what is the ultimate cost? So those really are the issues. What you're dealing with is a tree removal ordinance. You've provided in your ordinance with that jurisdiction to the shade tree. So that's where we are at today.
I have a question. On number 6, the fees, for example, it says 1 to 3 trees. Is that $25 each or $25 total?
I believe it's $25 total. You just get it in front of me, Mayor.
It's number 6 under 19-7 application procedure.
Yes, 1 to 3 trees is $25, 4 to 6 is 50, 7 to 10 is 100.
Total, not each.
That's the way I view that. That's the total.
Correct.
I also have a question about the fees, just above that, in section 5. And I'm going to come at this a little differently. I certainly support the idea that we need to take care of our canopy and everything else like that. But $350 to take out a tree for a tree replacement, I just want to understand how we got to that number, Mr. Coons, about $250. I mean, that seems a little excessive and also seems as if it's another excessive tax that residents are already paying.
Yeah, so from what I understand of the current ordinance, the 250 is already in there.
Okay.
I believe if I read the amendment correctly, and I know Mr. Keycott is here, he can certainly be asked to participate as well to answer some of these questions. That the 350, if I read it correctly, would apply specifically to commercial properties. Why that is, I don't know.
Okay, and just another question. I know that we, as per Mr. Keycott's presentation last week, a lot of this centered around the lack of enforcement, and I'm assuming that 19-10, that hasn't changed. So I'm just curious where this fell down for the last 10 years.
Well, who was the chairman all these years? He wasn't.
John Schaus.
Yeah, he wasn't. Well, he was the chairman.
So just
I believe in
if we were to leave the tree ordinance the way it was and we enforced it, would we be okay? Or I mean, does this need to really be overhauled?
If I may, Mayor, there were a number of revisions that were originally recommended by Shade Tree, which are incorporated into the version that you see. You probably have the 5th or 6th version in front of you. You know, it with respect to replacement trees and the like, those were certainly revised. The administration and enforcement provision has not really changed. With regard to designating a shade tree member to enforce it, it said shall, it was changed to may. So there were a series of revisions. That's up to the council to decide. But I know that, you know, there were a series of revisions. The tree replacement mitigation schedule, then the approved trees were certainly added, which I don't see any issues with. It just clarifies what the mitigation is and what the replacement trees that would be appropriate.
I think I could answer Councilman Kumala's question. I was on the Shade Tree Commission 10 or 12 years ago, and I believe there were 2 or 3 members who at that time would volunteer to enforce it. And since then, they're no longer with us. Either they moved away or deceased. So those members who had volunteered to do the enforcement are no longer on the Shade Tree Commission. So I think that's why the enforcement has fallen off.
Basically, what you're saying is that it was enforced by volunteers.
Correct.
Okay.
And so we're looking to go forward hiring somebody, or are we looking to go forward with the volunteers?
We're in terms of reviewing, especially when it comes to reviewing applications for tree removal. We're looking to bring on a arborist or certified tree expert on contract to do that. That's a fair bit of work. It's a fair bit of burden on the volunteers. So the idea there is to centralize that. You'll have consistency there with one person being responsible for it, and they would handle that. They probably would not be empowered to handle enforcement. That's something that would, I think, be coordinated with code enforcement in terms of actually sending out violation notices.
Okay.
Okay.
One other question, Mr. Coons. I just want to, so if somebody has a legacy tree and they have to put in a septic or something, an addition on the house, are they still permitted to remove that tree as a homeowner?
Brian, do you have an answer for that?
The answer is yes. There's the necessity that you're entitled to remove the tree.
Okay. Thank you.
And then do we want to get into the issue with the town cutting down the tree? How much of our ordinances is the town required to follow? Is this?
They are not. The example I always use is that the legislature always exempts itself from its rules, regulations, and laws. Shade Tree Commission is an inferior agency of the borough. So if you look at it in terms of government hierarchy, the borough is the sovereign, does not have to comply with its own ordinances. Best example I can give you is zoning ordinances are not applicable to the municipality. Municipality wants to build something, it certainly can, doesn't have to comply with its own ordinances. Your Shade Tree Commission ordinance provides that there is a process. There should have been consultation with Shade Tree with respect to the removal of a tree. But the requirement to get a permit and that you have to conform to the ordinance is not applicable to the municipality.
And the other problem is, it was a mistake. I don't think we were aware of it at the time. We became aware of it after the fact when the tree was already down. So what do you do?
I mean, I want to say too that going forward, it's sad that this happened, that there was this loss of such a beautiful, important landmark tree in our community. I also look at the silver linings in all things and try to be optimistic and positive. And I think as a result of this, everyone has now become aware, partly because of Mr. Clark and Mr. Keycott's leadership. As a result of this, that the landmark tree list is now widely distributed. Everyone knows. Rich has it. Anthony has it. We're aware of where all these trees are. And I think we're in a better position today than we were the day before this tree went down. And it's sad that it had to take this for it to get this way, but now we're in a much better position and everyone's talking to each other, so it could be avoided going forward. Because I think what no one, as much as what Brian said, didn't have to, and no one would have wanted this to happen. We could have avoided it if possible. I mean, partly with the LED sign was I wasn't originally too thrilled with the location, and that's and besides the point. But maybe this is something, if we had known about this landmark tree, would have come back and maybe we could have taken a deeper look, or we would have had a better plan and no one would have gotten offended. So I think going forward, we're all in a much better place as far as our communication. Everyone has the landmark tree list. This is something that will be on everyone's radar going forward, and that's a good thing.
So where is the list?
It is, Mayor, if I may, Lisa actually acquired it in response to an Oprah request from last year. She distributed it to myself and to DPW today. So it was the first time I saw it. But, kind of following up on what Grant said and responding a little bit to Russell, I did have a fruitful conversation with Ed Clark in the wake of this. We agreed, we have some project money left, and we'll work with the Shade Tree Commission and DPW to plant suitable replacement tree or trees to mitigate the loss of that tree. Second, Russ, to put, I guess, a little bit of a finer point on it than Brian did about what we're subject to and what we're not. Anything that is internal to our operation, we don't necessarily follow the same process. And I'll give you an example. If we need to use the senior center or we need to use the rec complex, okay, we don't follow the same permitting process that the public follows. It's our own facility, okay? There are codes that we are responsible to comply with that are administered at the local level, building code, fire code, health code. Those are all state level laws that we're still required to follow. They just happen to be administered locally, okay? So hopefully that kind of illustrates the difference a little bit in what we do versus what we don't.
And
Thank you.
Grant, maybe if in the next newsletter, the April newsletter, the Shade Tree could submit something about landmark trees and how many are there?
19.
19?
I believe that's what Peter said. We
So
did-
that's a great idea, Mayor, and
Put
I
the
will,
list, put the list in the newsletter.
yes, I will make sure I make a connection between our wonderful newsletter committee headed up by Liz Lorente and Peter Keycott, if they don't already know each other.
I just
And
have
that
one,
would be good to write about, because I didn't know about the landmark tree until today.
Exactly. Mayor, I just want to echo what Grant brought forward. And as you know, I completely concur with Peter Keycott on his explanation of how we got to where we are with the Shade Tree Committee, the Shade Tree Commission and how it operates, and the years of not going by the rule of law as far as a replacement goes. But I think, as Grant said, I didn't know about the tree. Obviously, I'm sure the DPW didn't know that it was a landmark tree when it happened. But I think if we make that commitment, as Rich said, to replace that tree, or maybe a few of them throughout the town on our properties, it would go a long way to, just ensure that we are behind the Shade Tree people and what they do and what they stand for, because after all, as Peter indicated, we are called Oakland.
So, yes. So now the question is, what do we do now?
actually, I just want to go back to the fee schedule real quick, just so I'm clear on this. So, and Mr. Coons, I'm going back and looking at section 5 again. So it's $350 for commercial, but it's $250 per residential. So if somebody's putting in a septic or a pool or doing some work and they're cutting down 4 trees, we're talking about that's $1,000 for 4 trees, correct? And on top of that, you have to pay another $25 or another $50 on top of that. Is that correct?
Correct. The schedule set forth in section 6 is like an administrative processing fee. In section 5, it's really meant to provide sufficient funding to replace trees that cannot be replanted on site as part of a mitigation plan. And the amounts that you see there, that $250, that's in the code currently.
So he's right. So Eric's right. It's $250 plus if there were 2 trees that had to come down for the septic.
It's per
That's
tree.
another
Yeah.
that's another $25.
No. It's, let's say you're going to take down 2 trees. It's $250 per tree, plus in that case, a $25 administrative fee.
So it's $525.
Yes.
It can be. I think what it is the fee. Let's use the septic example of 2 trees. Your application fee is $25.
Right.
If 2 trees come down, you can replace those trees with 2 trees on your property in accordance with the list.
But if you can't,
Correct.
But if you don't want to or can't, then there's that additional fee of $250 a tree.
Got it.
Well, under the example is, it's $25 and the cost is the additional 2 trees that you have to plant, or it's $25 plus $500 for the mitigation because you decided not or could not plant on your property.
So that begs the question, maybe Mr. Keycott can answer the question, what is a replacement tree cost in context to the 250 if it was just given to the town?
Is he here?
Yeah, he's got his
Peter?
hand up.
Yes, 1 second.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so it depends on the variety of the tree, but typically the trees are going to come in. You can purchase the tree, a homeowner can purchase the tree at 2 inches in caliper, which is the residential requirement, for between $120 and $175. Then there's an installation charge, of course, unless you were able to do that yourself. Commercially, it's a 3-inch caliper tree, a more mature tree. Okay, and that cost is anywhere between $180 and $210 per tree.
Now, if you take down a dead tree,
No, dead trees don't, so dead, diseased, ash, if there's an exempt tree, then it's not subject to mitigation.
okay,
And again, as Brian said, it reflects directly upon a tree that the homeowner simply does not want to, or chooses not to, cannot for whatever reason, or just most of the cases it's that they don't want to, that they pay the mitigation fee that allows us, through a new program that we're trying to incorporate into this program, so that they can be installed on public property, borough right-of-way property throughout town where it's needed.
so if I have a dead tree that I think has to come down, I call the Shade Tree Commission, I take out a permit, they determine it's a dead tree, it still costs me $25 for the permit.
It does, yes.
Okay,
Under the revision, yes. Currently, there's 0 fee.
got it.
What
Mr.
if I say the tree is dead and then the shade tree comes and says, no, that's not a dead tree? I mean, what kind of argument are we having here?
But we're not having any, and that's the whole purpose of this ordinance. Because we were told by Brian last year that we were no longer allowed to deny permits for the removal of trees for liability reasons. Because, one, we're volunteers, although we may be certified and we have all the credentials. Moving forward, again, to what Rich pointed to earlier, getting a forester on payroll or contract basis, who we know we can confirm the state credentials and such. He is an expert, and that person would be able to provide public testimony should they require it, and they would be able to make that assessment. Now, either way, although Brian has stated very clearly, and that's why it's really the genesis of this ordinance and the revisions thereof, because if we can't say no, we have to at least have a strong mitigation plan in place to make sure that the replacement of the trees that are cut down are properly replaced, adequately replaced, if you will, and appropriately replaced, whether on the property or on borough property.
So just so I'm clear, Mr. Keycott, so you're not prohibiting anybody from removing trees on their property as long as they replace it with a $120 tree on their property if they choose to, or $250 for the borough to plant it somewhere else?
Correct. Now, the number that you just referenced there, Eric, will vary on obviously the caliper of the tree.
Right.
Okay. So we're looking at, in some cases, private property owners taking down 36-inch, like think of the Great Oak Park white oak tree, right? We're looking at a 54-inch tree, a 200-year-old tree. You can't just say, I'm going to cut that tree down and replace it with a 3-inch caliper commercial size or 2-inch caliper residential size tree. That doesn't make any sense. We're talking about a 200-year-old tree and a 15-year-old tree, right? So there is a plan, and according to the section that you guys have, the mitigation plan references the caliber of the removed tree and references a quantity of trees to replace that caliber of tree removed. So It could be 2 or 3, it could be 4 or 5. Depends on the size of the caliper. It's measured, it's called DBH at breast height, which is approximately 4 feet from the ground. It measures the width of the tree. And I just realized I'm using my hands for a lot of this and my video is off, so I can put my hands down. But it measures the width of the tree at 4 feet. That's called caliper. And that's what we're trying to replace. And well, because I have the floor, another question that you had asked earlier about sizing. Commercially, we require a larger tree because commercially, typically, and when you look at the ordinance too, they're allowed, like there's a current proposal that we're reviewing that is removing dozens and dozens of trees for a commercial.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I have another comment. I'm sorry, Mayor. I have one comment. We don't want anyone to claim ignorance of the law, and we're not going to send letters to every resident in town. However, we do know, I don't think there could be more than 6, 8, maybe a dozen tree removal people that we know of, that we really should send this to them so that they can't say they did not know. You know, I don't want.
Well, don't they have to get a permit before they cut?
Well, let's hope they do.
Yes.
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 Right.
But here's the other thing for Peter, and I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it correctly. When they plant a tree, they usually, or I think they should, I'm going to call it an alligator. I think it's a bag that's put at the bottom, the base of the tree that waters the tree to make sure that it does grow. I don't know if, I don't remember seeing that in the revision. And I don't know if Mr. Kikot thinks that's necessary to do.
Peter, are you there? Kikot? Kikot, are you still there?
He is.
Hello,
No.
Here he is.
you got me
Peter,
now?
that question?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened. Yes, so Pat, it's called a gator bag. And we do provide them when we do installs. It's part of our RFQ to install trees, and we do the tree installations with commercial contractors. Homeowners, no. Homeowners, they have the responsibility to water it and keep it alive. And a part of the ordinance also specifies that the tree has to be alive for 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
So now my question is again, where do we go from here?
Just one more question for Mr. Kikot, Mayor. I just want to understand the math behind this. So Mr. Kikot, let's say the tree is 52 inches is 36 inches in diameter. Okay. So, all right, we've got the tree permit for $250. We've got the $25 for the fee for the borough. And now we have to do the mitigation. How many trees do you have to plant for that 36-inch tree? Just so I can understand and the public can understand that.
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it's 8 trees or 10 trees.
So hang on. So just so I'm clear, let's say it's 10 trees at $200. We're looking at $2,000 that the resident has to pay to take down a 36-inch tree.
Absolutely. Can I tell you what it is in Livingston to do that, or in other communities that have current ordinances that are much stricter and much more expensive than ours?
All right, so just so we're clear, so we're talking about, okay, so we're looking about $2,000 plus the $250 plus the $25 to take one 36-inch tree down if you're doing a septic work.
Sure. You're taking down a 200-year-old tree, yes.
I'm just wondering if...
Plus the cost of the tree.
Okay, I'm just asking if that's really fair for the resident. On behalf of the residents' private property rights, I'm just wondering if that's not, if it's realistic. That's my question.
Is that fee schedule new, or was that in the old ordinance?
Give me a minute, I'll tell you. I just want to look at the old ordinance.
The
I know the
250 was there, you said.
Yeah, the 250 was there.
Mm.
Actually, it looks like the 350 was also there. The only thing they added was paid to the Borough of Oakland.
Yes.
So I guess the question is, let's say, if somebody's putting a septic in, is there a way you can cap that amount for a major project that a person is trying to do instead of spending $4,000 or $5,000 in tree mitigation?
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes. We hear you.
Okay. My computer seems to be going out here. I'm being muted, not muted. I'll leave that up to you guys, but I'm going to tell you very clearly that there are many municipalities, Paramus, Basking Ridge, Livingston is one of the worst. Florham Park is another one, where in Livingston, for example, you have to, it's $35 a tree, or sorry, it's $135 a tree. 285 is a performance guarantee, a $500 per tree into escrow. Franklin Lakes is actually pretty easy. They're similar to ours. What is the other one? Florham Park is another one. Florham Park requires escrow. Florham Park requires an extremely high mitigation plan, and they have a $3,000 penalty in the case of trees being removed illegally. Their mitigation schedule is almost double what ours is. So there are much stricter, and Paramus is a great one. And you look at Paramus has one of the best shade tree commissions in the state. And Paramus has paid staff, and Paramus plants hundreds of trees, and Paramus has a great record in their shade tree family. So you look at structured ones, the costs benefit the town by the number of trees that are able to be replanted.
But Peter, you have to remember Paramus, for the most part, is sewered, and some of these other towns that you mentioned are sewered. So I understand what Councilman Kamala is saying. If it has to do with, I don't know, life safety and I don't know, whatever the terminology would be, maybe those fees can either be exempt or lessened, because that is a considerable amount of money. Let's face it, a septic system today costs $30,000 or above. So it really would be putting quite an additional expense on the homeowner. And a septic system is not something that you just like to have done. You have to have it done. So maybe we should address that specific area of tree removal for septic systems.
Well, it's certainly a good conversation to have, Pat. And I would argue that yes, in a town like Paramus with sewerage systems, they want to keep that water, that 10,000 gallons per tree that a tree can suck up a year, out of their sewerage treatment so that they don't have to pay to have that water treated. Agreed, 100%. However, we also have lakes, rivers, streams in town that we want to protect as well. And there's an important factor of that. Now, ultimately, yes, I think the Shade Tree Commission would take the advice of council and consider specifically as it pertains to septic system installations where that consideration could be made, 100%.
I would like to put that forward. I'm sure Councilman Kamala could word it better than I, but I think in relationship to when a septic system has to be replaced, that should be exempt or far less expensive.
Well,
So you're saying you want to continue this discussion at the next meeting?
if I may, Mayor, even though I am one that would like to see the discussion move, I just think there's some consideration. What you have in front of you now is that depending on the size of the tree removed will determine the number of replacements. So I think what you may want to do is look at that provision under the circumstances. So hear me out here. If we take the septic system example and you take down 2 trees, maybe they should be replaced in an equal amount and not in a multiplier based upon the size of the tree, the way it's set forth in the ordinance today. But if you're going to have this discussion so that it's clear, there are a number of situations that you will have that where you may want to remove a tree that is for some sort of, let's call it, construction. Septic system is the best example because it's required. But there are also certain other, let's call it, elective items that a homeowner may do that there may be different feelings about. There's additions to homes. There's also the installation of swimming pools. So these are 2 activities that may require the removal of trees. and whether they should be treated the same way. So if we're going to return and discuss this, these are areas that should be discussed. If you
So-
wanted to treat it, the septic system easily, you exempt that from the multiplier requirement. You take down 2 trees, you replace 2 trees, as opposed to maybe needing 10 trees with Councilman Kamala's example. There should be some
Hierarchy.
but you should also consider all alternatives, because, you know, there were trees being removed in the past to accommodate additions to people's properties. So, you know, now you have this multiplier, which is, you know, it's probably a bad word to use, but you know, the intention is that if you take down a 36-inch tree, we don't want a sapling. So, I mean, those are considerations for the council.
Can we send this back to the Shade Tree Commission to just maybe address that issue and come up with some ideas?
Well, I mean, certainly you can, but you know, I think for all of our sakes, we want it as clear as possible. And if you wanted to send it back to Shade Tree, Mr. Kiko's here, to me, it's very simple. Is that if there are actions being taken to improve the property, how should those be treated, and should they be treated differently depending on what's being done? Do we treat a septic system differently than a swimming pool? And how does an addition fit in there if someone wants to expand their house to accommodate their family? So I
You're
mean,
muted, Pat.
that's my suggestion.
Councilman
Move it
Van Eck,
along
since
if
you're
this
the
is the issue.
liaison for the Shade Tree, what do you think? What's the best way to handle this? Go back to the Shade Tree with those ideas?
I think if there are no other issues besides that, then perhaps that's what should be sent back. But I think, you know, we want to move this along. You know, I don't disagree. This has been kicking around for over a year now. You know, you want to make it work, but you don't want to, you know, you want to make it somewhat palatable to your residents. And I think the septic system was the best example.
That's a good example. Let's take back those ideas and those recommendations and bring the ordinance back in front of the council.
Okay.
I mean,
So that-
I know I just spoke to a neighbor who has to replace their septic system, just going on that $35,000 plus engineering.
It could be more depending on where the septic is.
Yeah.
Well, I think Councilman Knapp at his last meeting said he spent 42,000.
Yeah, 40.
Exactly. He did, and he had one of those situations where he had to pick up all the pavers in his driveway because of the location.
All right, let's move on because we have Assemblyman Orth waiting. Councilman Pignatelli, you want to bring up chickens?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. If you recall, we've had quite a bit of input regarding this from citizens. Several suggestions were made, and at one point, I suggested that I would like to take the proposed ordinance and to pare it down, which I have done. This has been distributed to everyone here on the council. I pared it down from 20 down to 10. If you want, there are 10 short sentences. I could read them just so that the public knows what we're doing. Mayor, what would you like me to do?
Well, we got some emails today.
Yes.
Emails regarding these changes or what?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, we did. They really had to do with setbacks. And I really don't think we should address setbacks when that's in an existing zoning ordinance.
Take it out.
Well, again, it's up to the council. The email that we got today was that rather than have a side yard setback, the location of the chicken coop should be determined from the dwelling rather than the side yard. So, I mean, I understand what they're saying. However, if I'm going to put it right up against my property line, I'm going to affect my adjoining property owner more than I am myself. So That's something, you should consider. I'm not telling the council what to do, but I don't think we should do that. It's not my recommendation to do that. But I'll read what I did. I did try to take everyone's biggest concerns or objections out of the proposed ordinance. So I'll read it. I'll do it quickly. The housing or keeping of chickens in residential zone for personal use is permitted, subject to the following regulations. 1, no person shall keep a male rooster chicken. Number 2, any person who rents a property where chickens are be proposed or maintained shall receive written permission from the property owner. 3, no chicken or byproducts are to be sold, commercially distributed. 4, chickens shall be kept in a roofed shelter or coop, which shall provide a minimum of 3 horizontal feet per bird and also include a fully enclosed fenced chicken run that provides a minimum of 5 square feet per adult bird. 5, chickens are not permitted to run freely unless they are in a contained area such as a fenced-in area. 6, a chicken shelter or coop and chicken run are only permitted in the rear yard and shall comply with the accessory structure setback in accordance with Schedule B and C of the zoning laws. 7, the fence and chicken run shall be well drained so that there's no accumulation of standing water. The floors and walls of the chicken shelter or coop shall be kept in a clean and sanitary condition with all droppings collected at least weekly. 8, any electrical wiring to the coop shall be maintained underground. Electrical connections to a coop must be done by permit and a permanent nature. 9, if for any reason applicant no longer keeps or raises chicken, they shall be removed from the property in a humane manner. 10, chickens shall be kept and maintained at all times in a humane manner in accordance with good agricultural practices. So as I said, I took 20 regulations, pared them down to 10, and mostly they have to do with sanitation, humane treatment of the animals, and compliance with the existing zoning and UCC requirements. I think a 50% reduction is a good compromise. However, it's up to the council. You do whatever you want. These are just suggestions that I came up with, keeping it strictly to sanitation and humane treatment and zoning laws. It's up to the council.
Okay, Pat, I think you did a great job of paring this down and getting it down to the nitty gritty. I did, I read all these letters and some of them are very interesting, and in doing so, you become a little bit of a professional on how chicken runs are developed and how chicken houses are kept. But I do, I won't use his last name, but Brian wrote us a nice letter where he has a permit-approved chicken run that he built, and all of a sudden that, because it's built between a shed and a property line, it would be considered now, it won't be in line with the ordinance. But if he had it approved already by permit,
Right.
shouldn't we take the opportunity to grandfather those people who have had their chicken coops and their runs already built and provide the new regs for all new chicken people?
But John, I understand what you're saying about the tool shed or whatever kind of shed you want to call it. But when you change that use, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I mean, when I was in code enforcement, I always told, whenever anybody asked me, I'd say, you have to go to the zoning officer, or you have to go to the electrical or plumbing or whatever officer. But when you change it, shouldn't the onus be on the property owner to make sure that they're in compliance? I just a thought.
So Pat, great job on this. And I agree with some of what Councilman Bialy just said. So really, we're just looking at part of number 6 of what I'm reading here, which is the accessory structure setback being in accordance with Schedule B and C of the zoning laws. That is the one thing I feel is we're only debating, right? Everything else, just to be clear, I think we're all okay with what you did. That's just the one element we're looking at.
And that's what the emails were about today.
Right.
If I could add something, even though I didn't see the emails, I get a general idea, is that this is an amendment to your zoning ordinance, so you're going to have some amount of certainty as to what you can and can't do. So the side yard setback for accessory structures is just that. It's measured from an adjoining, well, it's not adjoining, it's measured from the lot line. to say that you're going to measure from a dwelling really does not belong in a zoning ordinance, because that dwelling that's next to you today can be expanded tomorrow. So
Mhm.
that's why you're looking at a lot line. And since this is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, anyone that has a hardship in complying can certainly make an application for a variance. Now, Councilman Bialy raised, grandfathering. Typically, grandfathering in a zoning context is that what currently exists legally exists. So if it doesn't legally exist, it's very difficult to grandfather. So I have a question about enforceability if you said, well, all these existing structures are grandfathered, because it may be that they're not legally existing. If they got permits and approvals for them, then, the town can't do anything. Will be stopped.
Well,
But I
that's
think
what it,
that-
Brian, if I can interrupt you, that's what it says. The run, however, is alongside the shed and fits perfectly between the shed and property line fence. Also a permit approved project.
Right. If it is, it is. I mean, I don't know that. I just want to, raise
Yeah.
that with respect to.
Well, we don't know that either. but
I don't want to raise expectations. I just want to try to address what the facts are. But I think the objective criteria is to use the side yard accessory structure.
Now,
Seems to make
there
sense.
are some properties that are in compliance
Mhm.
because the existing ordinance says you have to have an acre of property. So there are some people with chickens who do have an acre of property.
Right, but I'm also saying is that if you enact this ordinance that has a side yard setback and they meet the side yard setback for the accessory structure, there's nothing to worry about.
So John, Councilman Bialy, what I was thinking was the tool shed or shed, whatever you want to call it, may be permitted, but the extension of a chicken coop onto it, was that permitted?
Well,
I don't.
it makes you, when you read it, like, as I read it,
Yeah.
it makes you believe that the project was, when it says also a permit approved project, it makes you believe that maybe it was.
If they had an acre of property, I would say, yes, you're probably right. But under an acre, I don't know.
And then just, Pat, just you said with the wiring, I think it should be in accordance to the National Electric Code. I don't think we should be requiring them anything other than what the National Electric Code
Fine.
requires.
Yep, sure. Yeah, and
What was
believe
the
me,
purpose of that?
I don't know. It has to be according, it says, but it must be permitted. But I have to just stress to other people, I was in public health for 35 years. I witnessed abuse and inhumane treatment of animals. And I had one resident say to me, you shouldn't have any regulation. I can't sit with that, because I've seen animals abused and inhumane treatment. It would turn your stomach. You have to have some regulation. I'm sorry. I mean, that's what I believe. I don't know about the rest of the council, but I believe you have to have some type of regulation to protect animals, because there are people, and one of the people who abused animals was a breeder. He had animals chained to trees in the woods without shelter, without food, without water. It was terrible. So for anyone to say we shouldn't have any regulations, I can't put up with that, because I personally saw animals abused. So
Councilman, I've prosecuted animal abuse, so I know what it's like. But who enforces chickens?
Carol Tyler, the zoning officer. I'm not the animal control officer. I'm sorry.
So, but they'll only enforce it if someone makes a complaint.
Exactly. We took a lot of people were objecting that the animal control officer would inspect the property unannounced every year. We took that out.
Yeah.
We took out the fee. We took out, like I said,
Right.
I took out 50% of what was proposed and pared it down to what I thought was reasonable protection of humane treatment to animals.
I just don't understand number 8 with the electric wiring underground.
Well, I don't know. Russ, maybe you can answer that.
Russell, John?
I just think maybe they're concerned that people are stringing
Right,
the wire
overhead.
the house to the thing.
Yeah.
But if it's allowed, because you're allowed to have an overhead feed to something. So if it's allowed by the National Electric Code, why would we restrict it? I think that's just something that should be out of here totally. It should just
Right,
be.
we should change that section. I agree with you. I
Yeah.
agree.
So, I mean, it's already covered by the National Electric Code. Why don't we just strike number 8?
Yeah.
It's already covered by Uniform Construction Code and Electrical Code, right? So take it out.
NEC, right?
Okay, so we take out strike number 8, and I just want to go back to Pat. By the way, you did a great job on this. The only thing my suggestion is 1, 2, 3 are great. Number 4 is great. It talks about the roof shelter, yada yada yada. It's perfect. But then I guess the only place I'm having a problem is when you jump to 6, because you've already identified that the chicken coop is what size and everything else like that. And now we're looking at the setback. I would like to see number 6 struck out of this, because that's like the National Electric Code. Let the zoning people deal with that. Why is it in the chicken ordinance?
But if you don't reference that, people are not going to know that there's a requirement. They're not going to go to the zoning laws too. This is the law governing chickens. They're not going to go to zoning.
But you're making them go through zoning by putting this in here.
And well, number 6 also mentions that it would only be permitted in the rear yard. So that's the first half of 6. The second half of 6 is the Schedule B and C of the zoning laws.
So why don't we just strike Schedule B and C and leave that out of there? I'd simply say chicken coop.
They're gonna need a permit for this, Brian, through zoning? Hey, Brian?
Brian?
Sorry,
I know, I was muted. I'm thinking about it now, because if I read what Pat has done, I don't see any permit required.
No.
It just says, according to Schedule B and C of the zoning laws.
Yeah, the Schedule B and C are just the setback requirements for structures.
right.
Which I think is important, because you're right, what if your neighbors are highly offended by chickens? I mean, we have a setback for sheds, so I think there should be a setback for the coop.
Because it is an accessory building.
The accessory structure.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the same, honestly, the same permit requirement should probably apply as well.
Well, only if you want a variance, I would think.
But how big is a coop?
Well, it gives you the requirements here. Where was it? A minimum 3 horizontal square feet per adult bird, and a minimum of 5 feet fenced-in area per bird.
Can you just explain what a chicken
What's
run
the
is?
max?
Well, I mean, a chicken run is a coop with upright fence posts enclosed in a fence, so that the chickens don't run all over the place.
Now, that doesn't require a permit, correct?
No.
Okay, all right, just so I'm clear. Thank you.
It's just the structure.
Right in the first sentence, the housing or keeping of chickens in a residential zone for personal use is permitted, subject to the following. So we took out the number of chickens, we took out the fee for the permit, we took out the permit, we took out the inspections, we took out 50. I took out 50%. But if you want to take out more, it's up to you. These are
Well, we took out number 8.
Right. So just coming back to the whole idea of shelter coop versus the chicken run. Okay. You're saying the run is also subject to the setback requirements, or no?
Some of the council say no.
Because right now it's saying it's only the run itself, which is a fenced-in area, would only be in the rear yard.
Correct. It would only
Well,
be
they don't stay in
yard.
the run. That's not where they really sleep.
Well, no, they sleep in the coop
Right.
where the nests are. And then during the day, they get out and walk around.
That's
You know,
nice.
They visit their neighbors, they talk about the kids,
Eat ticks.
Yeah, and I found out
That is
something today
positive.
that I
That is
never
positive
knew.
area. They
Do
do.
they
eat
really?
ticks.
Today,
They eat ticks, mosquitoes, and various
They
bugs.
do?
Yes, they do.
Yep.
Pat,
Yes.
I found out something today about chickens as well. I never knew this because I got interested as I was reading. Chickens can swim. If you throw them in a lake, they'll get across the other side if they have to, even without web feet. They
Wow.
will swim. They float because of all the body weight is so the body size is so big compared to the weight that they.
So what
they-
do you want to do?
So if
What
I
do you
want to
want
put a pool in for my
Introduce this
chickens,
as an ordinance next, do you want to introduce this?
Well, it depends. If you took out section 8, you really should decide whether or not you're going to leave in or take out number 6.
What does everybody want to do?
I would personally leave it in. I think putting chickens right out on a property line interferes with the useful enjoyment of my property, and I don't
Brian?
think it's right.
Brian, what's your recommendation?
On number 6.
I would leave 6 in.
Anybody opposed? So we'll introduce this as an ordinance at the next meeting?
Yeah, I just have to revise the existing ordinance to pare it down consistent with Councilman Pignatelli's memo. So we
Okay.
can get that done.
All right. So now we have a guest, Assemblyman Orr. Are you still with us? Assemblyman, are you still here? Did we lose him?
Is his
Yes,
coming back?
I see him, and I see we have our police chief. Chief Sanzari, you still with us? You're on mute.
What?
There's Assemblyman Orr,
yes, hi.
and there's our police chief.
Very good
So
evening.
here we are. So marijuana was passed. The majority, by a large majority of New Jersey residents decided that marijuana should be legalized. The legislature took that to, my first question was, were they asleep when this was passed?
Well, Mayor, I voted no on the bill that we were talking about, which is A 5342 in the Assembly.
Right,
And there are some very, very bad components with regard to this bill. One of them is being addressed, though, by Senator Vin Gopel down in South Jersey, and that's the parental notification aspect of this bill. And the governor has indicated he would sign it if it passes.
is
That
that
would-
different from what Senator is doing?
Excuse me, I'm sorry?
Is that different from the bill that is the amendment by Senator Lagana in District
Oh,
30?
Senator Lagana is on the bill with Senator Gopel, yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh. And that would require parental notification on the first event rather than on the second. And I think that's definitely a good thing. Now, I do not understand or know if they're going to address the issue about police officers facing criminal liability if they, well, here's the breakdown. Let me tell you exactly what it is. A police officer faces criminal liability for violating the above or following guidelines. Officers can take possession of marijuana, paraphernalia, and alcohol only if observed, and the officer must have a body camera on at all times during the encounters with minors about underage possession. He also said in the other part of this, they can't be arrested if they're found with it because they are underage to give legal consent. So it really creates a catch-22 here. And from my own opinion of this bill, I think the whole thing should be repealed, quite frankly, and start fresh. and have more in involvement of local community leaders, mayors and councils like yourself. Some mayors and councils have opted at this point to send a resolution down to the governor, and I think that's what motivated Senator Capel, Senator Lagana to revisit this. And they've been getting a lot of letters and so on from parents. But also, like I mentioned, mayors and councils have been doing resolutions asking that the bill be repealed, asking if the bill be amended. And there are, I guess, numerous municipalities that have done that. I know I've spoken to several people on the council that have been thinking along those lines. So that's something I would recommend you do from the start, just to get your voice out there to have it be heard. And you
I
may-
always like to know what the discussion that goes on behind the passing of these bills, or the discussion when they draft these bills. And what was the intention for the underage user?
I believe that this was prompted by more urban legislators. I mean, the sponsor of this bill is Assemblyman Wimberly. He comes from a more urban area. Patterson, I believe, is part of his district. And they feel that for some, that there is a higher instance of minority arrests as a result of this, and they're trying to put a break on that. I understand that, you know, there's some issues there that need to be addressed, but I don't think this is the exact way. Maybe from my perspective anyway, if I were Assemblyman Wembley, I'd be saying, well, rather than having my son or daughter arrested, which I understand you don't want to mar their record over one marijuana issue, I would want the police and the parents to sit down and say, okay, Freddie's been doing this, or Mike's been doing that, and we've got him here. We had the video on, we saw him, this is what he was doing. We really think we want you to get involved. And then if there's another instance, they talk about intervention through therapy and so on. I think those things are good. And if you want to take the arrest component out of it, merely because you're trying to give an underage person an opportunity for a second chance, even a third chance, I'm okay with that. But the part about not telling the parents, I think that doesn't serve any real purpose other than to give the offender an opportunity to do it again without any repercussion. I think the parents should be intricately involved in this if this is going on at an age other than the age of consent.
But also besides that, I think you're really binding the hands of the police. I was talking to the chief. So chief, could you explain if an officer stops a vehicle and they smell marijuana in the car? Can they do anything?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
We
You're
can
good.
see you clearly.
All right, great. Well, hopefully not too clearly. Yeah, so the odor of marijuana is no longer a reason for officers to stop, search, or detain somebody. So if we have a motor vehicle stop, we would have to observe signs of intoxication just as we would with alcohol, and we would have to observe, the driver and the vehicle prior to stopping them. What is it doing? Is it swerving, or is it, making an illegal turn, or what have you? We would have a conversation with the driver. We would make observations in the car, and then we would, if we saw a reason to have them exit their vehicle and conduct field sobriety tests, we would do that just like we would with alcohol. And typically, they will, if they don't perform as expected on those tests, they would be brought into headquarters. They would be put on the alco test, where they would give us samples of zeros, and then we would have to call a drug recognition expert in, and that is the person who dictates or assesses the person and says they're under the influence of a hallucinogen or another type of narcotic, and then that person would say, yeah, it's marijuana, No, it's heroin. Yes, it's methamphetamine. And then we would only able to be charging them with driving under the influence. There's no longer possession of marijuana in a motor vehicle. There's no longer under the influence of marijuana. It would strictly just be the DWI offense.
So
Unless
there's
you have
no way
20.
you would have an excuse to search the vehicle.
Well, we would only be able to search incident to arrest. So we would have a limited portion of the interior portion of the vehicle, wingspan, as we say, of the driver. And we would just be looking for implements of the DWI, nothing else. So we would be looking for alcohol containers, or if we thought it was a drug, we could look for that drug, in limited areas and circumstances.
So your hands are really tied.
Yeah, well, let me just say this. I appreciate all of the comments by Assemblyman Oth. It's exactly how I felt. And that number one issue that he brought up about not notifying the parents, that's a very big issue with law enforcement and parents alike on both. So I can speak from both perspectives. There's not one officer or parent that I've had a conversation with who agrees with this. Um, our job is to keep our juveniles safe and get them to the parents because they're the ones who need to be making decisions about their children and what they need or don't need and what help they may need or not need. And, they are most in touch with their kids in terms of what they're doing and what kind of help they need, if any. And taking that tool away from us, I don't understand it.
Such something so simple. So down at the shore, you're prohibited from smoking on the beach. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a public place, so you wouldn't be able to.
However, you can smoke marijuana on the beach.
Well, it depends on how the smoke-free act is constructed, because if you can't smoke a cigarette there, you might not be able to smoke marijuana. And also the towns or jurisdictions can pass ordinances to prohibit smoking of everything in certain areas as well. So it really depends.
So I'm just curious. Of course, I'm not an RML member. I am not a shareholder. I don't know if anybody here is a member of the lake. Are you allowed to smoke on the beach at the lake?
Well, right now, there's no such thing as regulated cannabis. So if they were smoking, it would be illicit marijuana, which is another major problem with this bill, is that the ballot question asked whether or not adult use cannabis should be legal. And everyone overwhelmingly, 60 something percent to 30 something percent said, yes, that's what we want. But this new law that came out on the 22nd of February of this year addresses everything but that. So that's one of another big problem with this law. And I also appreciate Assemblyman's comments about the deprivation of civil rights statute and the police officers taking on a bigger liability. That's a very serious statute, and it's reserved for only the most egregious of violations by a public servant. In this situation, we're talking about law enforcement. And the current deprivation of civil rights requires that a police officer discriminates or harasses a person based on their race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, or a handicap. But the new marijuana law strips all the key elements and overt acts in that statute so that all a police officer has to do is violate this law without the intent of intimidating, harassing, or discriminating against anyone, especially against their race, religion, or ethnicity, etc. All they have to do is violate the marijuana law and they can be found guilty of this deprivation of civil rights. And it could be a second degree crime. And just to put that in perspective, manslaughter is a second degree crime too. So you can't say that one violation equates to the other because they're just completely two different animals. And just because an officer accidentally asked for consent to search of someone under 21 because they thought they were 26, but they are really 20, it was a mistake and they're going to be held liable and possibly face a second degree crime. As you can imagine, the law enforcement community is quite shocked with this part of the law. So I appreciate everyone's support with this.
Well, what age are they considering underage? Is it at 18?
Well, that's the other thing that this law has done. It's created a new category. You know, it used to be 17 and under.
Right, for alcohol.
Yeah, 17 and under to be a juvenile, 21 and over for legal marijuana. But there's also this new category of people that are 18, 19, or 20 who are being treated like juveniles, and you can't ask for consent of an 18, 19, or 20-year-old. I don't know what happened on February 22nd if their cognitive abilities all of a sudden went down, and now we're treating them like 15 and 16-year-olds. But, you know, in the state of New Jersey, the legal age of consent is 16. But now it's not because of the marijuana law. Now it's 18, 19, or 20, sometimes 21, or maybe 17, depending on who you are and what you have in your possession. You know, it shouldn't be determined by how old you are. You know, it should be determined by the probable cause or the reasonable articulable suspicion that the police officer has. So that's another glaring problem with this law.
You're muted, Assemblyman.
Oh, thank you. If I may interject, that part of the law, which is probably the most egregious, hasn't been addressed at all. This is only about the bill that I was talking about to make amendments to this bill, A 5342, merely discusses police officers contacting the parents on the first offense. The other things that puts police officers in jeopardy while making a stop have not been changed whatsoever. And I think that's why many municipalities have either identified that particular part of the bill as being unacceptable and offered resolutions to have that removed or amended, and others have just said, we want the entire bill amended, or excuse me, to be repealed, and then start again with proper people who can give insight and explain the impact of what the bill would do if it was implemented out on the street where all these activities actually take place. They don't take place in the hallowed halls of Trenton, and that's where this bill was concocted, I think. So
this is so confusing, the actual age of the 21 to 18. If you have a child support order and the child is not in college and graduates high school, child support stops 18 because he's considered emancipated.
You know, I just want to
So I
chime
don't
in here.
understand this. Where did they come up with 18 versus 21?
Assemblyman?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah.
I was saying that if you go into, if you get divorced and you have to pay child support and your child graduates high school and does not go on to college, the child is considered emancipated and you stop paying child support. So that's at 18.
Right.
But here we're talking about 21-year-olds. So what made them students in New Jersey?
That's very likely. I'm just looking at it here. I'm just the part that caught my attention, and you have spoken about this, is officers have to justify their actions in every report concerning possession of a minor and have their body camera on for the duration of interaction, including for adults between the ages of 18 or 20. That's all they've done. So I'm assuming that they're looking at this, saying that someone between the ages of 18 and 20, while they are in the age of majority, still aren't responsible when it comes to situations like this. Certainly, if they're intoxicated, they're not going to be responsible, even if they were 40. But
now, what happens if we just put in the budget about body cams for the officers? What happens if they don't have a body cam?
Well, that's another question. That's if you don't, and there's a lot of police departments that do not have them. Many of the urban departments have them, but that's because they receive federal funding or they receive state funding. But the suburban police departments have not received that type of funding, and it's not only the cost of the cameras, but it's the cost of cataloging and keeping a library of all the body cam activity for a certain period of time. In this case, it's 2 years. And if it's not requested by the person who was being photographed, then they can destroy it. But how many police stops happen over a month's time like that, and you have an hour's worth of film, an hour's worth of film, and this all has to be stored by the municipality, and that's a cost that you're going to have to bear. Of course, you have to create a library somewhere to do that. But that's what they've put in here now. And if you don't have a body cam, then I don't think the arrest can take place at all. And I don't think any police officer who didn't have a body cam would want to even engage because of the potential liability for arrest of the police officer. I mean, and I don't want the chief to weigh in on that because that's really not. I'm just postulating that if I were a police officer and I didn't have a body cam, I wouldn't want anything to do. I'd say, as long as you're not driving, you're creating a public hazard, I'm going to leave you alone because I don't want to be put in a situation where I have to have a union represent me in court, have parents and aggressive, excuse me, I know you're attorney, Mayor, but aggressive attorneys that are trying to make a headline out of it, go after the police department. These things happen all the time. And I think it's absolutely outrageous that it is. And that's why I would ask the council, and I'm asking others as well, to make a resolution to and offer it, sign it, and send it down for a repeal of this Bill 5342, and ask them to start from the beginning.
Right.
Assemblyman, just a couple questions.
Yes.
Number one, do you feel that the legislature has the intestinal fortitude to deal with this, or is this just going to be kicked down the road? Are they, I mean, realistically, can these be fixed, and do they want to fix it? Or are we just wasting our time?
Well, the parental part, I believe, is going to get fixed. The governor's already indicated his willingness to sign that. Some of the other parts are not going to be fixed because you're going to have urban legislators that are going to refuse to do that. And the governor had to acquiesce to them to get the marijuana bill passed. He really had that as one of his commitments to the voters. When he first ran, he said he was going to get that passed in his first term. And he's gone almost overboard to get the bill passed and done so many things to appease so many people, participants in the bill making process, that this is what's been created. This is actually called a patchwork to the original bill. And this type of legislation was required for the governor to get the votes he needed to get the bill passed.
So just digging back, just going back to the police notifying the parents. Is there a realistic fix that's going to address this? Or is this going to be just like a reworking of this nonsense that's going to come out even worse?
No, I don't believe that'll be the case in this particular, the passage requiring parents to be notified. There have been legislators in the Democratic caucus that have been receiving copious amounts of mail and emails from constituents with regard to this. And that was the genesis of the bill. I read several articles that they interviewed Senator Coppell, and he made it very clear that that's what was motivating him. And he himself as a father felt that he would want to be notified. So that's how that manifested itself. I think you're not going to see a problem with that. As a matter of fact, you might see a rather speedy passage and put into law or amendment to the bill as a result of the sponsor of the bill and the fact that the governor is saying he's prepared to sign it.
Thank you. Just one comment. I mean, it's just as a father of two high school age children. I mean, listen, the state of New Jersey can't even make a decent budget. And now they're going to, with this legislation, they're going to put a wedge in between me and my child. And they can do a better job raising my children by the police not notifying me. It's absolutely, it's sickening and disgusting. Yeah, quite frankly, it's offensive as a parent.
That's why I think they were asleep when they voted.
Well, listen, you want to know how the votes went? I can tell you.
Please.
Sure.
In case you want to know who to contact, let me see. So the final votes in the legislature, this is, I'm not being political, I'm just giving you the breakdown, so don't take it the wrong way. In the assembly section, there were 49 in favor, 24 against. Assemblyman Bramnick, who's a Republican, Assemblywoman DeCroce, who's a Republican, Assemblywoman Dunn, who's a Republican, and Assemblywoman Shapizi was a Republican, all abstained, and all the other Republicans voted.
Why?
Why?
I don't know. I didn't ask them. And then on the Democratic side, all the Democrats voted yes.
Mayor, to answer your question, it sounds like one of those bills where let's pass it first and then we'll read it.
Maybe, I don't know. But it was, Republicans have to take responsibility for this too. There were 4 of them that didn't vote no. The leader of our
And the
caucus.
abstention goes with the majority.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's just, that's the way it is. Now, I don't know what their rationale for that was, but I
We'll have
certainly.
to ask.
Yeah, you have to ask, exactly. So that's how that worked. And so I'm hoping that Senator Coppell's bill comes out as something that I can support, unless there's any really devils in the details. And I'm going to encourage colleagues in my caucus to do the same.
Is this a bipartisan fix, I hope?
Well, I haven't seen it, but I'm going to find out what the assembly version is. I don't have a bill number yet, but when I get it, I'll go on. If I can go on as a prime, fine. Otherwise, a co. But the way they're running Trenton now, they really don't do much to encourage bipartisanship. They'll just run the bills through and not allow co-sponsors to become from the other party to become part of the bill. It's just, the way it goes when you have a very strong majority.
I'm surprised that the state PBA hasn't sent in their
The
complaint.
chiefs of police weighed in on this, and
The chiefs,
the chiefs of police weighed in on this, and said it was absolutely horrible. It was a bad bill. So I read that stuff when I get it. I probably can find it if I look it up, but it was an email sent to me, and then I got a hard copy of it too.
Yeah, actually, that letter from the Police Chiefs Association was included in your packet materials.
it's in the back, yes.
Oh, okay, that's great, Rich. That's the one.
Plus all the materials that we got from the League of Municipalities. I have materials from the New Jersey State Bar. I've been to seminars, and I have one on Friday with the Municipal Prosecutors Association. And the other thing is there's automatic expungement. All these, everybody who is convicted of marijuana.
Oh, the old convictions, yeah, they'll all be expunged, right? And the amounts that are being allowed are seeming inordinately high.
Oh, yeah, the chief and I figured it out mathematically.
Yeah.
What did you say it was, Keith?
Well,
6 ounces.
you're allowed to possess 6 ounces, which is 170 grams, which you kind of need a backpack for that. So,
Where it used to be under 50 grams.
yeah,
Right.
yes.
And in this mix too, they have they passed a law regarding psilocybin mushrooms too. Are you familiar with that, Chief? Also,
Yeah, I think they decriminalized that as well.
right?
So where do you get those?
I don't know. I think you can grow them in the backyard.
I always got mine from Rich.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's easy up here in Sussex County.
Does anybody have any questions?
just-
We have Assemblyman Orth here. We have our police chief.
So just one more question. So now they've decriminalized marijuana. Now they've decriminalized shrooms. Is this going to go down like Washington State and Oregon, where they're going to go after heroin and everything else like that?
I can't tell you. I mean, I certainly wouldn't sponsor a bill like that, or I wouldn't vote for one like that. But
I don't think anybody's brought up heroin. I've not heard that at all.
Washington State has.
on the West Coast, they've done it.
Yeah,
Who has that?
Washington State has, yep.
Where'd you hear this? Here
Heard it on the news.
in New Jersey?
No, Washington State.
Yeah,
Washington,
Washington, not in New Jersey.
Oregon too, I think.
Yes.
'Cause I mean, it's just, I'm getting the impression here we're going down a very slippery slope, and I'm feeling very powerless to do anything to stop it. But I've said my piece. Thank you.
Assemblyman, I have one question and I still didn't hear the answer.
Yes, sir.
The assembly person that wrote the bill, when he was questioned about the feasibility of the officer calling out to the parents. What answer did the writer of the bill say he was trying to do by not letting the parents know? That's just doesn't make any common sense to me.
Councilman, I must tell you, I know Assemblyman Wimberly. I don't know if this was a duplicate of a Senate bill. It may have been, but I cannot answer that. I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay. Because there's no common sense answer that I can even think about that would bring you to that thought. I'm going to put this in the bill. Don't recognize the parents and a stop on the first time. What?
It seems it's very perplexing. I don't know how they can countenance that, but they put it in, and I would, like I said, I would produce a resolution asking them to repeal the bill.
A worst case scenario, under 21 gets stopped. He's stopped because he's in a car accident. And the officer determines he's probably under the influence of marijuana. What does the officer do? You have to notify the parents because he got hurt in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
How does the officer protect himself?
Well, that's a great question. What happens if the officer's in the supermarket and runs into the person's parents and says, "Hey, listen, I just wanted to tell you, your son's having a little problem. Maybe you want to have him see a psychologist or go into a drug rehab or something like that and get that straightened out." And in theory, he could be charged criminally for doing that, for trying to do something neighborly, I think.
But seriously, all right, but seriously, what happens if there is an accident? And the officer has to notify the parents because the child's underage, but he's old enough to.
Mayor, I don't know. These things are going to start developing, and we're going to start seeing different responses to these particular events as you're itemizing here, and then they're going to start deciding whether or not they can prosecute, not prosecute, if they want to prosecute or they don't want to prosecute. Some people would say, "Hey, thanks for taking care of my son." Somebody else may just come back and say, "Hey, and by the way, did you realize that you violated a law because you contacted me and he had marijuana in the car?" I mean, I don't know. This is a litigious society. Someone could be convinced to do that, I think, maybe. Very confused.
So we have a sample resolution. I don't know if you got a copy of it. That was drafted by our attorney.
I did not get a copy. But I'd be happy to, if you send it over.
Richard, will you send it to him tomorrow?
Well, I think that's kind of the other point of our discussion tonight, is to see if the council wants to enact a resolution, and which one. There were two versions that were supplied. One was based on a resolution that was being adopted in Upper Saddle River, and the other was based on a resolution that they were acting upon from Seaside Heights. A little bit different take on each one. So maybe we can kind of coalesce around if council wants to pass a resolution, in which version, and then I can certainly get that over to Assemblyman Roth's office tomorrow.
Well, the Upper Saddle River was a lot shorter. The one from Seaside, where brings up the beaches and smoking pot, marijuana on the beaches, whereas you can't smoke. So, and it also talks more about the police and their role. So, except that it says Board of Children Freeholders. I think we have to change that.
So any discussion on the resolutions that were provided in draft?
Did you read all the did everybody read all the resolutions, samples?
I did. I wish it would really just address the one which Councilman Kamala so passionately expressed is so egregious, which is the not informing a minor's parents. And that, like, if I'm looking, I'm not sure which of the two I'm looking at right now.
That's the short one from Upper Saddle River.
Yeah, the short one. That would just be bullet point 4. I would be more likely to support a resolution just addressing that issue right now, based on what everybody said. And it seems like that is something likely to happen, than spend time getting into too much detail about some of these other things. I mean, I agree with some of the elements with the police, but I also don't have, I actually understand, and I sort of agree with some of the points where in this draft resolution, we're saying we would be against. I would personally, not that it matters what just me would want to do, I wouldn't support saying I would be against that, because I think, like, unlawful search and seizure and violating Fourth Amendment protections has been eroded in this country. And also, we're dealing with something that was legal at a period of time in this country. It was like up until 1937. And then there was another act in the 70s that outlawed it for medical purposes. So there's a lot of history behind the prohibition. And we're about to we'll transition into some post-prohibition ideas that I have when it comes to alcohol and distilling pretty soon. But it's difficult for me because I believe we have a prohibition problem in this country, and also have a problem with infringing upon people's Fourth Amendment inalienable right of protection of their private property and unlawful search and seizure.
You don't want to protect the police from unlawful criminal?
I do, but I also want to protect people from what I think would be unlawful search and seizure.
Well, then I think you should.
So I think there's good elements in both of these drafts. There's good elements in both of these drafts. Sorry. No, I think there's good elements in both of the drafts, and I'd be happy to work with someone on maybe coming up with something of a compromise. Absolutely.
I want to see a little bit more protection of the police than in that original one. I think they have the right for us to want to protect them.
Absolutely.
I think going, I mean, really, if we just ask for a total repeal and then start over, I mean, we're not going to rewrite their bill.
Exactly.
You're not.
So if we just ask for a resolution saying we wish this would get repealed and do over, let's go. We understand that majority of the people wanted to legalize marijuana, so okay, but let's do this a little more responsibly, because obviously there's a lot wrong with this bill.
I thought the governor was going to have a commission.
Oh, yes, he will have one. I don't think it's been established yet. And that's another bone of contention. Obviously, there's all sorts of people weighing in, wanting to be on that, having some influence in how this all finally rolls out. And we're waiting to see who that's going to be. So,
well, I just want to say we got to get something down there immediately, and we got to vote on something today so that we can get it down the trend. Because if we delay this for another 2 weeks, our voice is not going to.
We can't vote because these are all drafts. We can't vote it on today. It'll have to be the next meeting.
Well, if we agree on one of the drafts, let's move it. Because I mean, I simply off.
Yeah.
I mean, time is of the essence here, correct?
Yes, I would try to do it sooner rather than later, because otherwise it's just not going to have the impact that you're looking to have.
And the possibility of this being repealed totally is almost out of the question.
I think probably. I think
agree.
it'll be amended. Yes.
The amendment, yeah.
I'd be in favor of voting on something that addressed specifically the issue of not informing them. I'm a parent, very young children. I hope my 2-year-old wouldn't get caught, but if she was, I'd want to know about it.
Well, the one that you like also talks about that the legislation will severely limit the ability of law enforcement agencies to police our community effectively. And it only talks about children, but I just think you need to give them a little bit more protection. If you added another whereas, I'd be okay.
Well, Mayor, if I may interject, I certainly don't believe that if a police officer makes a mistake in the search, that they should be charged with third degree or second degree crime. I mean, that sounds a little extreme. I understand Councilman Van Grant's concerns about the Fourth Amendment, and I agree with that too, in large part. So perhaps you could, if you wanted to do a resolution and tailor it a little bit, mention the parts about the parents and notification, and then mention the part about excessive sentencing of police for possible violations, especially if they were violations that were done inadvertently as opposed to deliberately.
But see, now we don't even have body cams on our police.
I
Well, that,
completely agree with Assemblyman Oth's summary there. That was.
So you would agree
right
to
on
that?
point.
So why don't we just
I
take
would.
the resolution we have right now, the sample resolution, and just cut it down to that and vote on it, get it done.
Well, I don't think we could vote on it tonight. These are all drafts. Brian,
Why can't we move it?
If
I'm asking
if you
Brian,
have
not
one
you.
you like, or you want to modify it, we could move it.
Yeah,
I want to make sure that the police are protected. I don't think that they should be subject to such a severe penalty for, especially, we don't have body cams on our police. It's in our budget for next year.
mhm.
We have to give them some protection.
Well, I think that's what Assemblyman Oth
That's
was
what we-
saying. So those two points,
But they're not in that,
Police-
they're not in that small draft bill
with the
resolution.
being charged of a third-degree crime for
The
not.
third or second?
Why?
It
Second
depends
degree.
on the circumstances of the.
Yeah. Okay. And then the informing of a minor's parents for the first offense. Those are the two elements.
I think we're we're sending a resolution to them saying, we wish. I think if we just get something down, we put it there. It's really, they understand we're not happy with the bill. There's things need to be changed. We put something in this resolution and mentioning the protection for the police and we're upset with how the parents aren't warned, and then just go forward because
Brian, you can do that?
yeah.
Yeah,
Brian, you could add?
yes,
Right,
And then
so-
can we vote on that tonight?
yes.
I'd like to move the resolution with the elements that Councilman Van Eck, with the guidance of Assemblyman Oth and the mayor, have described moving forward to set the resolution to go to Trent.
And then I'll sign it tomorrow. I'll come to Borough Hall and sign it. But so you added those two items for the police about the severity of the crime. Because we don't have body cams. I mean, how can we do that to our police? In fact, a couple of towns that I prosecuted don't have body cameras. I don't know what they're going to do.
Right. I mean, and the truth is, though, no matter what we put in our resolution, if they don't change the law, it's the law. So, but it's just, we're just stating our
And it's timely.
displeasure.
Right.
So is the state and the federal government going to help us offset the cost of body cameras?
The state is developing a grant program. I think we should be seeing details on that within the month. It's not clear at this point whether or not it will cover the full cost of the program. It may very well not cover the full cost. Keith, do you have any additional details beyond that that have come to light recently?
No, that's
Okay.
it. We
Assembly-
we might see a grant application by the end of this month and we'll start from there.
Assemblyman Oth, I thought if it was a new program, the state had to provide the funds. This is not an expansion of an existing program. Body cams are new.
It's an unfunded mandate, actually. I mean, that's all I can tell you. I know for a fact that like the urban areas did get funding for it. It was in the bill, some of the governor's budgets last year. And it went to appropriations and it was done. There might be a little bit of hope. I know the new president has quite an extensive package that's coming out now where there's going to be a lot more money available for grants. So I think, Rich, you should be kind of keeping the radar out for some of those that might be coming from the feds. I don't know who you used to do that, but they may be out there sometime in the near future. So I just wanted to Maybe not this year, but next year.
Well, the
Nope.
federal package is supposed to include money for municipalities, but I don't think there's anything specific for body cameras. But you think the state is going to have some money?
Well, they did it the last time. I don't know what they're gonna do this time. I can check though for you. I certainly would do that. And we'll have some of our guys hunt around and see if we can find some grants that you can tap into right away, Rich, so maybe you can get some of it.
Yeah, we are of the understanding that there is a, a grant program, Keith. I guess it's through the AG's office at the state level that will cover at least a portion of the body cams. Maybe that's their way around the unfunded mandate aspect of what they're doing. On the federal level, I have a seminar I'm going to be attending on Friday virtually that kind of recaps the federal legislation regarding the latest COVID-19 relief bill. And we'll get an early read on what may be in there in terms of either direct funding or different grant programs and how that money is actually going to be distributed via what channels. Okay.
All right, so Brian, you have it under control?
I think so.
So we're gonna take the shorter resolution. And we're going to add. Do you have the language to add?
You would just give it to me again so I have it.
Assemblyman?
Oh, I'm sorry, the bill
The
number?
correct language. Well,
Oh,
Keith, the correct language about the third degree.
Oh, okay. In your resolution, I guess, just say that, that's a good question now. I had a stream of consciousness when I was saying it before.
It was good. Well, you said it before, it was excellent.
That we need, that you are interested in seeing that the violations that are currently in place in Bill A 5342 be reduced or eliminated because of the prospect of inadvertent search and seizure of potential marijuana suspects that could cause unnecessary charges to the police in your municipality due to inadvertent violation of the law, and that it would precipitate, let's see. Let's see, inadvertent violation of law and a I need help too now.
Keith?
Wasn't it underage protection of the police? And there was a third element. That was it.
It was that they would be subject to a third degree crime, right, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, just a simple advising the parent for the first offense. If a police officer tells a parent for their first offense that their child was in possession of marijuana or alcohol, for that matter, it is a third degree deprivation of civil rights, and it could go up to a second degree depending on the circumstances. And I just think the punishment does not fit the crime. It was done in good faith, and it was done with no harm other than to protect the child. I don't see why police officers need to make themselves available to such a high level of liability, and it goes to the police department and the borough as well, that liability. So
yeah, which is
just
an
unnecessary, uncalled for, and it's not, the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
You're right. That's basically what it's saying.
All right, yeah, in other words, due to the fact that a police officer could inadvertently break that particular aspect of the bill, break the law in that particular aspect of the bill, and question somebody or search them with and violate the regulation in this bill inadvertently, we ask that this particular aspect of Bill 5342 be repealed so that our police department can act in a judicious manner while having a patrol vehicle stop.
Excellent. You got that, Lisa?
Brian better be getting it.
I have enough that I could craft something.
Okay.
There you go.
So can we vote on this without seeing the actual paper?
If you're basically what you're doing is you have the resolution and you're adding that a police action inadvertently that can be determined to be a violation of A 5342 should be eliminated from the bill as an unintentional consequence of the police officer enforcing the law based upon a reasonable stop.
Excellent.
And I would ask that we remove bullet points 1 and 2, which on the ordinance, both of them, that discuss no longer allowing odor or possession as probable cause for search of the person's personal property or vehicle. They both bullet points 1 and 2 on both resolutions. I'd like those pulled
Criminalizes
out.
the conduct of officers who respond to a call for service or are investigating the underage use of marijuana, hashish, cannabis, or alcohol by, and you want to eliminate the first two.
The first 2 bullet points.
Hmm.
They're pretty much identical on both of the 2 resolutions.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
You want me to amend my motion?
What do you think? I don't know how many amendments we have here. Well, so just make the motion. I think Brian caught it. Everybody agree with Grant? Anybody
Yeah.
disagree with Grant? Okay, so make the motion. It'll be seconded.
I move the amended motion as per Councilman Bennett.
Second,
Second.
as amended. Roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Kamala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
And then I'll sign it tomorrow and we'll get it down to Trenton and to the Assembly and to the Senate.
Mayor, may I make one other suggestion?
Of course.
That would be, you do a newsletter of some sort or an email letter of some sort to the
Yes.
citizenry. Let them know you're doing this. I think it's very important because it will also bring it to their attention to understand that there's something they should become involved with. And the more letter writing and emails that the legislators get about this, the faster the bill will get passed and put into law. So I just encourage you to or maybe put an article in your local throwaway paper. I know the one that you're gonna kind of
The one that's under the snow, we're going to,
yeah,
it's
right.
now illegal.
That one. I see. I was listening. I was paying attention to the whole meeting.
Thank
But that may be. I think it's really imperative that the folks in your town know that you're addressing this. That you're making outreach to your legislators at the state level that have created this problem and telling them to address it and fix what they've done wrong.
Got it. Will do. And thank you so much for coming tonight.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for, I found your meeting elucidating. I've learned a lot about cheese, newspapers and budgets and everything else. And you're doing
Chickens.
a fine job up here, guys. I
You
congratulate
found
all.
out about chickens as well.
That's
And
right. I
chicken.
that's right. And runaway pets. Exactly. Very nice.
Thank you,
Well,
Thank
Assemblyman.
you. It's
Thank
always
you,
a
Assemblyman.
pleasure having you.
Thank you,
Thank-
Assemblyman.
Thank
thank
you
you,
very much
Chief.
for having me. Have a great
Thank
evening,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do.
Good
Bye.
night. Chief, you're welcome to stay.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna run home and put my son to bed.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the consideration.
Keith.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rearrange your sock drawer.
Have a
Take
good
the
night.
rest of the
everybody.
day off.
All right, reduced fee team tennis.
Okay, hopefully a quick, easy one.
Quick.
After the last three.
It's 10 o'clock. According to the new bylaws, we'd have to stop now.
Yes. Anybody want to entertain that? So Team Tennis pays a fee of $1,600 as a group activity to use the tennis courts each season for their league play. There was a large reduction in the amount of time they got in the court last year due to COVID and the restrictions and everything, but they paid the full fee. They asked for some consideration this year to have a reduced fee of $800 to kind of make up for that. And there's still kind of a little bit of an unknown of what the season is going to bring this year. So they're asking for a 50% reduction in 2021. I know I believe they went through the rec commission with this. I've spoken with Mike Guadagnino about it, and they're supportive of the Team Tennis's request. So,
Rick, do you have any comments on this? You're on mute. Councilman Van Eck, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Do you have anything to bring forward from the?
I think it's pretty straightforward, and I think it's very reasonable and understanding, given 2020 and what we all went
Right.
through.
Okay, so it'll be on the next agenda, next
yeah,
month.
Brian, we can, Brian, that can just be a resolution. I know it's in the fee ordinance schedule, but can we just do a resolution to waive part of their fee for this year?
Rich, I had trouble hearing you. Say that again
Oh,
about
sorry.
amending the fee ordinance.
Team Tennis fee is $1,600. We want to make it $800 just for 2021, kind of due to COVID. Can they just do that by resolution in lieu of doing a whole ordinance?
Let's do it by resolution. If we're going to keep it the same for the following year, I'd prefer to do it by resolution, indicating that there's a suspension of $800 of the fee.
Okay, good enough.
All right,
That
group
was done.
clubs. Do you want to talk about that tonight?
Oh, I could do it real quick. Is
Okay.
that okay?
Yeah, you're next. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So an untapped opportunity for our town, brew pubs and limited breweries. I'd also like to address, although it's not here in the summary, a little bit about distilleries and wineries too. But just a quick overview on brew pubs, Alcoholic Beverage Commission, or ABC. Learn a little bit about our ABCs here. The brew pub is regulated to manufacture 10,000 barrels. You need to also own a restaurant that serves food immediately adjacent to the brew pub. And this, we got a recommendation from John Whittakin that it would be an I3 zone along Spruce Street and Raritan Road would be appropriate for something like this. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, if by saying that. And then limited breweries, which is the other. And this is all since 2012 post-prohibition law in New Jersey that came around in 2012. Imagine it took that long after prohibition. Limited breweries can have patrons bring their own food or get delivery. And you're limited since 2019. This is a new ABC ruling. 25 special events, 52 private parties, and 25 social affairs a year. And each one of those events has its own, opportunities and limitations. And the recommendation for this would be, for our zoning, would be the CBD 1 and 2 zones and the B2 zone. So that is as quickly as I could possibly sum it up for everyone.
Anybody have any
That's it.
questions?
Good job.
Okay. All right. Everybody start thinking about it and do some research. All right, any
Well,
new business?
do we want to refer this over to the board, or do we want to move ahead with the preparation of a zoning ordinance amendment that can then go to the planning board?
I would like to additionally include distilling of spirits and wineries as well with this. I think if we're going to do it, we should do it all together. Or if there's a reason for it to be separated out, I'm not sure. And I promise to look into that with everyone as well.
Okay.
Okay. Any new business? Old business? Council committee reports? I will start with Councilman Van Eck, since you've been talking.
Taking a sip, that's a lot of talking. Take a sip of water here. Now, quickly, Shade Tree, we just had a meeting, not going to report anymore. We heard a lot of Shade Tree tonight. DPW, I think this is important because with now that we have a change in the weather, we're getting a lot of calls about yard waste collection. We have them scheduled to resume Monday, April 12th and Tuesday, April 13th, depending on your street address. And reminding everyone to place your materials in biodegradable bags or garbage containers weighing less than 50 pounds. I think that's just really important for everyone to remember. And all that information is on the website and the calendar. Potholes, if you want to report one, 201-337-8104, or fill out a service request on the borough website. DPW is going around and filling them in as much as they can. Recreation Commission, oaklandrec.org. That's where you can get all your information. Just real quick, we've got camp counselor applications on there, and summer sports camps like football, baseball are all on the website. And just another quick mention about the resodding and overhaul of Field 8, not costing taxpayers any money. This is full speed ahead on the resodding of Field 8 this summer. OCC is always looking for volunteers. If you're interested, Van Eck at oakland-nj.org. We just had a meeting on March 1st. The bulletin board committee is still looking for music submissions, and we are putting the new equipment and installing the equipment in the Oakland TV control room in the council chambers. That is almost complete, which is very exciting. And the commission also submitted, the mayor mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I think this is important, that Altice is having this public hearing, and the Communications Commission, which I endorsed a letter from them to Altice with about many of the frustrations that I've been voicing in these meetings and all our residents are experiencing. So we did submit that letter to be read at that event. And then our next meeting will be May 3rd. This commission meets every other month. Wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day, happy St. Joseph's Day next week. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, John, I'm going
Yes,
across.
Mayor, thank you. Again, on water and sewer, there's not too much to report on the decommissioning project, as we're still waiting approval from the iBank and our application. I think we've just completed the environmental part of the iBank application, so we're well on our way. There are still outstanding issues with the easements on the relining of the current flow pipes to decrease the I&I, and John gave us a very good detailed map of the area where some of those easement issues were created because the actual lines run between properties in the backyards rather than in the streets. So the easement issues include three sheds that have been constructed over existing manholes, a fence blocking manhole access, and trees blocking truck access to manholes. Also, an easement appears to have been established. There's been no easements that have appeared to have been established for the two sewer lines serving Kiowa Terrace and the west side of Cayuga Avenue. I think I got that right, didn't I, John? Very good, thank you. Patriots Way Bridge, recently, a month or so ago, we had a meeting with the residents of Rampo Reserve discussing the bridge installation this coming year. And I know we got an email from a Glen Gray resident. Why weren't they included? And we had one with the Glen Gray people, but we plan on having an all-encompassing meeting with all those affected on the bridge sometime in April, and if not April, early May, but probably in April time. Streamhouse. I want to thank Russ, Councilman Talamini, Rich, the mayor, and Jerry Aguilar, as well as Margaret Hickey for joining the roundtable we had. Was it last night? I'm getting my Zoom meetings mixed up. I believe it was last night.
It was today, yeah.
Okay, we discussed it was a kickoff, and we discussed what we'll be looking for in creating the plan for the new structure. And we went through a lot of detail on on what we need, including we need a septic, we need a bathroom, so we're considering using part of the garage in the back. We also need a lift to get into it to do ADA, and we're gonna have an access and an ingress and an access door, so we can get more people in there when the time is right, obviously. And we're gonna have 2 stories, and the first floor is gonna be more of an open area with a large presentation area for when we have an event there, that it can follow up with a dissertation on what they just accomplished. So I think we got off to a very good start. Margaret's going to do a rendition for us to see what it could look like. And a big part of this, and I just want to bring this up, big part of the stream house building replacement, and we're also finding out that the funding source that's going to help us the most, looking that we get closer to what the stream house actually looked like, rather than not look like. So a big part of it's going to be making the whole area an inviting location for everyone to really want to go. So a good part of the planning will also include a landscaping plan. And because a lot of the area there has eroded over the years, so we have some runoff issues which can be taken care of with a good landscaping plan. And this is all going to cost money, but we're looking at trying to cut costs by possibly doing a modular building and doing it out of state, so we wouldn't have to take the prevailing wage approach, and also maybe asking our local contractors, landscapers, to take a piece of the plan and to donate that area to make this most appealing historic location in Bergen County.
John,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I hope a part of the plan is a fundraising program by the Historical Society.
That was brought up at the meeting, Pat.
Yeah.
And we encouraged the representative there, Jerry Aguilar, to that's part of what Historical Society do. They actually create fundraisers to help and offset the cost. Obviously, we'll be getting some help from open space and wherever else Rich might be able to tap into. But we want to even cut that cost further by maybe having it built out of state and having it delivered here all intact and just putting it together in a couple weeks.
Because I think a fundraiser would help me to vote for a program that shows interest by the taxpayers of Oakland to contribute to fund it, so that we know that really, this is the direction that people want us to
Pat,
go.
It took up a good part
to
of
the
our meeting.
representative, and you know who we're talking about, that they do fundraising. And I'm not, and we told them, if you want to be involved, you're going to have to start thinking about fundraising.
Look, let's face
I
it.
was trying to keep that politically correct Pat, without calling anybody out. But this is the whole issue with the historic location we have. It belongs to the community, and the community should be very proud of that location. Years and years, and we know it because we've been around here a long time. It's been an eyesore. So we want to take it from being an eyesore to being an attractive location that you want to get to.
John, just remember, if Brian Schwartzberger could raise $100,000, I would think the Historical Society could lend a hand and raise some of it.
We agree with you, Pat, and we said
Great.
that. We agree.
Thank you.
That was part of our meeting, Pat.
Thank you.
Russ
You
was
want to
there.
join our meeting? Anyway, moving on from that, Eric and I went down. I think Pat did a drive-by. We went and
Yes.
visited the
Yes.
Eastern Christian Children's Retreat,
Yes.
which is a very nice building. We met with Darrell Rogers. We had good conversation. We went over some of the aspects of the building, and we feel good about them becoming part and parcel of the town in a way that is respectful of the town and the neighbors, and also of the residents that will be living there. So I think there was a good feeling that we both got, Eric and I, when we spoke to Darrell. And the other day I thought I was getting up to go play golf, but I was getting up to join a JIF meeting at 7:30 in the morning. And it was was the mayor, Russ might have been there? Russ, were you on that?
No.
Oh, you didn't make it,
No,
okay.
and Grant, you didn't show up either. Grant's on mute.
Yep.
You didn't come, did you, at 7:30?
No, I wasn't able to.
Yeah,
It was
it's early.
basically-
But you could do
Yeah,
it
it
on,
was
you
early.
could do it on you could go on the website. Richard has the website. You could do it on your own.
But David Grubb gave, as always, gave a very good dissertation on the legal aspects of in the workplace. So
Plus, then you get you give the borough $250 credit towards
Yeah.
our. Anyway, is that it?
I believe that's about all I have tonight. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Councilman Slazinski, do you have anything to add tonight?
No, nothing yet. I'm still in the process of meeting with the heads of different groups that I'm associated with, but I should have something soon.
Great, look forward to it.
Thank you.
Councilman Talamini.
Finance, just congratulations to David again for all his hard work passing his CFO exam, and then also just thank you to Rich and David for all the hard work they did towards our budget meeting the other day. It was very productive. I think everyone I talked to said what a productive meeting. We we had some questions, and I'm sure we'll get the answers to them in a timely fashion, and we'll be able to move forward with the budget for this year. I'd also like to bring up. I was going to bring it up in new business, and I forgot. I think maybe every year we should do some kind of primer class with the council and the CFO, just to get an idea of what we're responsible for, what the CFO is. I mean, if you look, there was a town in Bergen County that just got in all sorts of trouble because they were, the CFO wasn't accounting for the sick leave and
Is that Palisades Park?
yes,
I read that article, yes.
I didn't want to name the town, but
I'm sorry.
and so I just think so we could be a little more responsible. So maybe if we look towards doing something like that, just even if it was a 10-minute, hey, this is what you're responsible for as a councilman, and
yes.
as a CFO.
Excellent idea.
As the schools just COVID. What else can I add?
And it is true, Dogwood, I got an email while we were.
Yeah. Yes.
Dogwood is closing.
So just like I said in the past, you'll get more information if you go to the school websites than you will from me. I would hate to report something that was incorrect. And then just happy St. Patrick's Day, and I hope you like my tie.
That's excellent. Very nice.
That's for all my Irish friends. I'm not Irish, but I've known to pretend I was Irish on St. Patrick's Day. So that's it for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councilman Kamala, you're on mute.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. Just want to report on the Green Team. We had a training session that I participated with the Green Team last week. As you know, the mayor's appointed a whole bunch of new members, and there's a real learning curve, and there's new energy in the Green Team moving forward. Also, there's going to be an award ceremony this week for the Green Team for, I believe, their silver award. And what else do I have here? Also, I want to just touch on what Mr. Bialy said. We did go up to go look at the house up in Wyckoff, and I also reached out to a lot of the neighbors that had concerns about the house, and brought one of the residents with me to meet with Mr. Rogers and really understand what the group home was all about and alleviate some of the concerns that the neighbors had, so that moving forward, they have a seat at the table as if this project does indeed take off and they start building the house. The other thing is, I just wanted to address real quick. I know Grant and Rich, you were going to talk to the health department, in regards to the rec sport. Is there any chance that the health department, you can reach out to them tomorrow and have an answer from the health department, so that these individual students that want to play in the playoffs, if there's a possibility they could get cleared with direction of the health department, so they can be notified?
Yeah, as I'd indicated earlier, Eric, I'll be sending that request in writing tomorrow morning,
Okay.
pretty much first thing, and then following up with a phone call as well.
Okay.
Pushing them for an answer. Whether or not they get us one tomorrow or Friday, I cannot be assured of, but we'll certainly do our best to try to facilitate that.
Terrific. And the last piece of news I have is I just before this council meeting, I was on a conference call with Josh Gottheimer's office, the congressman's office, and he was with some elected officials going over the contents of the COVID relief bill that's going to be, I guess, signed tomorrow. That's coming out of Washington. There's a couple interesting elements that were in there, and that really affect Bergen County. Bergen County is going to be getting $313 million in funding out of this bill, and it's going to go. Some of this is going to go directly to the municipalities for projects. The one element that really caught my attention, Mr. Bialy, this is really for you, is the fact there is an element in there for water and sewer infrastructure. Okay. And he kept reiterating the fact that there might be money for upgrades or build outs or anything else. So Mr. Coons, the information is going to be coming out Friday with the town by town breakdown, because this is still kind of hot off the press. There's also unemployment benefits built into that as well. There's also money for broadband infrastructure and food security. But the big thing here is they're going to be, in the first 60 days, they're going to be sending out half of the money to the municipalities or the projects. The second half of the money will be the following year. So maybe by working through the congressman's office, we can find that synergy for the water and sewer projects and take advantage of the money that's coming down through Washington. So letting you, Mr. Bialy, know, Mr. Coons, the mayor, there's really an opportunity here to hopefully, if it works with our program, to get some money. So I just want to leave you with that.
All right. Eric, if I can, just to let you know, again, the League of Municipalities I know is on this. Again, there's a seminar on Friday. My professional association is monitoring this very closely, and it's generated a lot of discussion as far as who knows what. And
exactly.
And I have a draft synopsis from Senator Booker's office on the multitude of things that are addressed in this legislation.
Yes.
It's a ton. It's going to take a while to kind of go through and digest. There are direct allocations under different formulas. There may be another pot of money for infrastructure projects, specifically water and sewer.
Correct.
The broadband is interesting because that seems to be a real federal priority. So it's going to be interesting to see what is grant funded, what is direct allocation, what strings are attached for that money, how long we have to use it. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions that need to be answered. So hopefully, between Friday and the coming weeks, we'll get answers to all of that.
Yeah, like I said,
I spoke to Congressman Gottheimer's office this afternoon, explaining they couldn't be on the call, but I said I would touch base with him within the next 2 days, and we'll get the list.
Yeah. So that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Last but not least.
Last but not least, sit back, get comfortable. I attended the Environmental Commission meeting on March the 2nd. Ali Fleeson came as as a resident and discuss the plastic bag ban in Franklin Lakes and Wyckoff. Also, I'd like to welcome Matthew Shook
Shook.
Shook to our commission, and hopefully his experience with the Palisades Commission and Bear Mountain fundraiser and special projects will be a valuable asset to our commission. Also, Austin Wall said that he would put together a letter to the railroad concerning the litter and debris and garbage that is spewed all out throughout the railroad tracks here in Oakland. We discussed Sandy Beach. A couple of suggestions which I thought were very interesting were made. We know that they don't want to sell it to us for the price of the grant that we have, but we came up with a couple of suggestions. Maybe we'll make this to the Land Conservancy, that possibly Sandy Beach subdivide off the riverfront project from the buildable portion of the property, which possibly we could split the attorney fees to do that. And Mayor, I know you would like to have that property along the river for a river walk and to connect our recreation facility. So maybe we could talk to them about subdividing that portion off of the entire parcel. Also, there might be a possibility of them granting an access easement for the path along the river. There is a 300-foot buffer limit because of the C1 stream regulation that they cannot build within 300 feet of the river. So if they do either one of these, subdivide it or the excess easement, it would probably be a tax benefit to the property owner. So that might encourage them to do it. Lee Heyman, who is a chairperson, spoke about Great Oak Park, how the Environmental Commission will help with the environmental issues and the Rec Commission to deal with the activities. Because as we heard a couple of meetings ago, that in the future, the Great Oak Park Commission will probably cease to exist, and the Environmental Commission and the Rec Commission will take up part of the responsibility. They also want to do, Lee also spoke about an endangered species mapping and doing a GIS for Great Oak Park. Let me see. Yeah, they're talking about, they asked about the tick spraying at the dog park. Evidently, a company has volunteered to spray the first year for dog ticks, but the Environmental Commission would like to see the material data sheet, material safety data sheet for what they use. Supposedly, it's environmentally sound to use this, so they want to see what they're going to use. Lee Heyman also asked for suggestions for projects for this year. For land use and trails, an impact on water, Mike Miner is going to take a look at that and make a report to the Environmental Commission. He also would like to see that we do a trail map for Oakland, which would show the different trails in Oakland, townwide open space map, and a trail inventory, and classify the trails by difficulty for people to see whether or not they could actually manage the different trails. As the mayor said before, spring cleanup is going to be April 24th and 25th in cooperation with Earth Day and Arbor Day. They also want to take a look at the butterfly garden, possibly improving the butterfly garden. They want to take the invasive species project removal in parks on Roosevelt Avenue, Truman Field, Stewart Woods, Great Oak Park, Potash Lake, and also encourage the participation for Cleanup Week, April 24th and 25th. Our engineer, John, are you still with us, John? Yes, there he is. I thought you were sleeping, but.
Wake up, wake up.
The long Board of Adjustment meeting last night as well. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, John sent an email to me today saying that the project for Monhegan Avenue will be looked at this week. He will take the necessary measurements, and we will discuss again the possibility of parking on a portion of Monhegan Avenue, what his suggestions are, and there's always a cost. You don't get anything for free. Too many things for free anymore, but he will also discuss that and make his recommendations, or at least some alternative plans. Am I right, John?
Yes, yes. It was actually measured today,
Okay.
and I haven't seen the results yet, but we're looking at that tomorrow and Friday.
And the next Board of Health meeting is Tuesday, the 16th, which is next week, the day before St. Patrick's Day. And I'm very encouraged to see the initiation of our traffic study in town. This is something I've been asking for a couple of years now. Hopefully, with the adaptive traffic lights that Councilman Grant suggested, and the traffic study and what the traffic counts that John can take a look at and present it to the board. Might be some eye-opening figures in there, right, John?
I think so. I think so. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Because don't forget, and Mayor, you know this, the DOT said, there's not going to be any traffic impact with the 287 through Oakland. Well, I beg to differ with them. There's been a great impact. And I think with these figures, we can present to them and show them that the 287 has made a deleterious effect on our environment and on our traffic here in Oakland. Right, John?
Absolutely.
Go get him, brother. I want a real nice report now, John.
I won't let you down.
John, you
Don't
have a
worry.
report tonight?
Thank you.
John, you have a report?
No, John does not have a report.
No, I don't. We're 32 minutes past the curfew.
Right.
And that's it, Mayor. I'm done. Thank you very
All
much.
right, motion open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Michael, you still with us?
I am still here. If you wish to provide public comment, please click the raise your hand icon or *9 on a mobile phone.
I don't see a hand. I see somebody crying.
It's a laughing emoji,
It's a laugh.
laughing so
No,
hard,
but
they're
it wasn't
crying
it
emoji.
was the opposite of laughing.
Mayor, I see no one further.
Motion to
Okay.
close.
Mayor, someone came in, resident Allie Fleeson.
Hi,
Hi, guys.
I see
Hi.
a hand.
Yeah, Allie Fleeson, 59 Seton Hall Drive. I just want to clarify something about the chicken ordinance. The coop is an actual structure, a accessory building. The run is really a fenced-in area. So by putting them both as a structure and needing to be set back at the same thing, I think that should be differentiated as a fence versus a structure, instead of being mushed into both being a structure. That's the only comment I really had, that should be differentiated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I see no one further.
Motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just a question, when you do the ordinance, when people who have, not me, but people like that grow tomatoes in their garden, they put up a little wire fencing. Is that the same as what you would put up for a chicken run?
Essentially, the same, similar.
So what is that? Is that's not considered a structure?
No.
I wouldn't think so. Correct.
So then
That's correct.
Should Brian differentiate in the ordinance?
Is that council's pleasure?
Well,
I-
it's
Well,
similar
here's the
to
thing.
when you grow. like
But
I
it's,
said, I
but
grow
it's
vegetables.
attached. But the fence is attached to the accessory building.
Oh, it is? Oh, it is.
No, it's not.
Oh.
No,
Well,
it doesn't
I think
necessarily need
in
to be.
some cases it can be, in other cases it may
And
not.
how do the
Fine, well-
chickens, how do the chickens get from the coop to the fencing area?
I
They
don't
cross the
know.
road.
Have to
Through
ask,
the
They
door.
across the road.
Well,
Same
we'll
thing.
have
Sounds like
to
a
ask the
dad joke.
residents
the
who have.
public session is closed. There's
No,
this
but I'm
one,
asking
two-
Pat,
there's one.
you're saying, how do the chickens go from the coop to the run?
Yes, it's attached.
So I'm asking all those residents who want to have chickens, could you please email Pat and myself an answer to that question?
Actually, I would defer to our attorney.
What I'll do
We'll
is
send it all to him anyway.
I have a draft of the ordinance, and I think when you introduce it, you could include it or exclude it.
Well, by then we'll get emails from the residents who have chickens and will tell us about the run versus the coop.
But we
With
have to,
that,
we have to act. We can't continue to do this. So,
No, I'm saying with that, bills to be paid. I'm calling on you now.
all right.
It's 10:36.
Yes, bills to be paid. $287,634.44. So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Everybody read the bill list? All right, if that's the case, then let's vote.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Koala,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes?
Councilman Slasinski,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Good night.
Aye.
Aye.
Next meeting is March 24th. See you then.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Night all.
Happy St.
Good
Patrick.
night,
Don't forget,
everybody.
turn your
Good night.
clocks ahead this weekend.